with the record label, and after that, he's allowed to do whatever he wants to do. But right now, he's not looking forward to opening his own record label or launching something different. He just wants to work for himself and with his band, the 79th Element, which stands for gold also. Did you know that? His sister is also a member of that band. And he has also said that he is open to offers. Yes, any record label who is willing to sign him and the band, you know what to do. But then again, he had to tell us that he doesn't know how to chew rice. Like he had to tweet about it. Like people who chew rice, how do they do it? Because he has tried and he has never been able to get it. And I'm like, whoa. Are these the same people who don't know how to chew rice but yet can swallow eba? I don't know. So many things were just running through my mind. And speaking about rice, the war between Nigerian jollof and Ghana jollof is nowhere near end at all. Let's check it out when you merge these two together.
The battle between Ghanaian jollof rice and Nigerian jollof rice. But today, we are not here to see which one better pass the other one. We want to see what thing go happen when you mix Ghanaian jollof rice with Nigerian jollof rice.
How would you do that?
I don't believe this. Something has to be done.
That was quite hilarious. Right now, let's go check out our new and trending music videos. You know how I do it right here. Songs that are making waves everywhere. Let's check them out.
Chale pause. The way that you move that thing to the floor makes me say, Chale wow. I dey see things when you move to the sound. Yeah. Chale pause. The way that you move that thing to the floor makes me say, Chale wow. I dey see things when you move to the sound. Oh, kelebe, kelebe, oh, kelebe, kelebe, oh, kelebe. 'Cause the way that I shake, meleje, meleje, oh, kelebe, kelebe, oh, kelebe, kelebe, oh, kelebe. 'Cause the way that I shake, meleje, meleje. Right now, I dey child naira, I dey do the shocky and the Al Qaeda. If you know sabi dance, you be outsider. But me, I can't shout like a town crier. Songwriter, make it.
You're my butterfly, don't fly away, butterfly. Where you dey go, butterfly? Would you be my butterfly? Hey, see butterfly, I just butterfly. Figure 80 butterfly, my African butterfly. Come here, baby, come closer. Tell me, baby, tell me how far. Oh, yeah, yeah. Don't you keep me waiting, no. For your love, I'm waiting, no. If the match me say no waiting, come and see a butterfly. Come, baby, come make we dance, so yeah, I'm lily. Come, baby, yeah, come, baby, oh yeah, come make we go, make you come in daily.
Link up, call on my guys, made a link up. So link up,
bit different from the part one. And again, we've seen the cast and crew having so much fun, traveling all around the world to Dubai, taking pictures, and I'm like, oh my God, these people are having so much fun doing what they actually love to do. I mean, who wouldn't? Also, we're looking at Francis Agoda, also known as Agoda, who has opened a beautiful mansion for his amazing mother to celebrate Mother's Day. Of course, it was a VIP event as we saw the ex-governor of Edo State, Adams Eshomole, grace that event. Also, so many stars were present, and this mansion has been named the Golden Eyes. Congratulations to his mother on the beautiful home. Like, the house is magnificent. Also, we're looking at Akpororo, who recently had a street jam with a pregnant woman dancing amazingly well. Like, whew, that woman is energetic. And that dance step alone got her 100,000 naira from Laura Ikeji just because she was impressed with the ladies dancing. Of course, the lady went on to give birth to a beautiful baby girl and has also gotten 100,000 naira from Laura. Congratulations to the mother and welcome to the world, pretty baby girl. Also, we want to say congratulations to Laura as she is also pregnant, and we so can't wait for her to just like give us that beautiful baby because she's looking all fresh. And I'm like, wow, pregnancy is so good on Laura KG. Right now, let's go check out our comedy skit for today. Please don't go anywhere.
Sorry, let me hold on. Let me call you back. Yeah.
Good afternoon, sir.
Yeah, good afternoon.
Sorry, sir. I hope you enjoyed service today.
Oh, it was very good.
Okay, my name is Simkat, sir.
All right, good to meet you.
Sir, I'm sorry. Do you have any stranded 1,000 around your pocket?
Stranded 1,000? What does that mean?
No, I mean if you have any 1,000 that is hovering around your pocket that you do not have use for.
I'm sorry, I have use for my money. Sorry.
No, sir, sorry. If you give me 1,000.
Next time, be nice about it and ask well.
No, yes.
You're the one who looks stranded here, by the way.
I'm sorry, sir.
Next time, ask nicely, okay?
Thank you. God bless you.
All right.
Enjoy the rest of your day.
You too. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah, good afternoon.
Yeah. Sorry, I hope you enjoy service.
Yeah, service was nice. Well,
The man of God is good.
yeah, Pastor Godman, yeah, it's good.
Sir, sorry, I want
Yeah.
to quickly run around. You have
Okay.
any useless 1,000 around your pocket area?
What do you mean by useless? I
I
don't
mean,
understand.
it means 1,000 naira that does not have use in your pocket area.
Do you mean you need money? You're
Bam.
stranded? Well, you don't look it.
Guys, not by looks.
Okay, anyway,
It's not by looks. This is Lagos.
take, manage it.
I should manage this one.
Manage it.
You
Do
serious?
yourself, yeah.
Sir, is this your car?
Car.
Sir, you are disguising. God bless you. Sir. Please drive carefully, eh?
You too, enjoy
Drive carefully, oh.
Enjoy yourself.
Thank you very much. Hey.
Look alive. So excuse me, sir.
Yes, sir.
There's this young man over there who is constituting a nuisance. I mean, he's walking around every car,
And this car park?
asking for money around, and I think it's a risk to everybody here. You need to do something about it urgently, please.
Okay, I'll look into
Please,
that. Do
please.
you know where exactly he is?
He's wearing a red jacket, carrying a briefcase.
Okay, look out for man wearing red jacket constituting nuisance. All right, look out for man.
please. I
Okay.
could show you actually. Let's walk that way. I'll show you. I'll show
All right,
you.
let's
Yes.
go.
Follow me on. Take it easy now. My brother, relax now. Everybody dey hustle. I'm hustling.
Moving on, we are looking at Pharrell Williams, who has been awarded with an honorary doctorate degree from the New York University. Yes, he now has a doctorate in fine arts. Let's not also forget that he has a PhD in political science and has authored a book on children. This is really amazing, I must say. And he shared a picture of himself on the podium, tagging it "Forever a Student." Does that mean he'll be going back to school anytime soon? Anyway, I'm impressed with him. He's a musician, he's a music producer, he's a rapper, name it. He's into everything entertainment, and he still has time for book. So what is your excuse? I mean, anyway, we've come to the end of today's episode of Entertainment Gist. I hope you had so much fun with me here, and I hope you will also be joining me next week, same time, same station. I am Cynthia Banyogo, and I will be leaving you with these few words of wisdom from Basket Mouth, which says, always get inspired, first of all, before you get jealous of someone else's success. What do you think about that? That's pretty amazing, I must say. Words in marble. All right, I'll be seeing you next week. Take good care of yourself. Bye for now.
Oh, yeah. Like, yeah. Baby, yo. If you done the show, say you want to the carry go. I supposed to know, say you won't go solo. On your own, all alone. I don't know. Oh, girl, you're driving me crazy. Out of my mind, I cannot hide. I've been thinking about you lately. No matter how hard I try, I cannot fight. Sometimes I get so frustrated, and I'm losing my mind, bruising inside. I know I need you and I hate it. No matter how hard I try, I cannot fight. I still love you, I still love you, I still love you, babe. I still love you, babe. I still need you, and I want you, I still want you, babe. I still want you. Oh God, you done make me want to. Kololo, 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 my man. Kololo, 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 kololo.
Our programs are getting better and fresher. And it's because we are thinking about you. NTA, it's all about you.
The sunflower, Helianthus annus, is an annual plant in the family Asteraceae with a large head capitulum. The stem of the flower can grow up to 3 meters tall with a flower head that can be 30 centimeters wide. The flower head is actually an inflorescence made of hundreds or thousands of tiny flowers called florets. The central florets look like the center of a normal flower and the outer florets look like yellow petals. Altogether, they make up a false flower or pseudanthium. The benefit to the plant is that it is easily seen by the insects and birds, which pollinate it, and it produces thousands of seeds. The sunflower is the state flower of Kansas. That is why Kansas is sometimes called Sunflower State.
Sunflower is another beautiful plant. Its flowers are usually very big, and like it's called sunflower. It does well during a dry season. It can also do well even rainy season. So it's not a seasonal plant, but where it blossoms fine is during a dry season.
To grow well, sunflowers need full sun. They grow best in fertile, wet, well-drained soil with a lot of mulch. The outer petal-bearing florets are the sterile florets and can be yellow, red, orange, or other colors. The florets inside the circular head are called disc florets, which mature into seeds. The flower petals within the sunflower's cluster are always in a spiral pattern. Generally, each floret is oriented towards the next by approximately the golden angle, which is 137.5 degrees, producing a pattern of interconnecting spirals, where the number of left spirals and the number of right spirals are successive Fibonacci numbers. Typically, there are 34 spirals in one direction and 55 in the other. On a very large sunflower, there could be 89 in one direction and 144 in the other. While the vibrant, strong sunflower is recognized worldwide for its beauty,
flowers generally is life. it's good to have flowers everywhere. They are wonderful. If you have a flower in your house, it shows that you are living healthy. Because if your house is stuffed and when you have a flower there, it tell you there's something wrong with your house. Like I have a flower in my house that actually showed me that my house was stuffed. I need to open up. So flowers are very good.
It is also an important source of food. Sunflower oil is a valued and healthy vegetable oil, and sunflower seeds are enjoyed as a healthy, tasty snack and nutritious ingredient to many foods. Once the flower heads are empty of seeds, they can be converted into disposable scrubbing pads for jobs too tough for your cleaning tool. Planting to clip a few to display in a vase, if you wait until the afternoon, they may wilt.
NTA, you can't beat the rich.
Hello and welcome to Local Color. Today on the program, we shall be looking at African arts and crafts. My name is Bello Boluatife.
Once you are conscious of what you are doing in producing a particular a particular work, be it paintings, be it beadwork, be it carving, be it batik or textile, let's generalize it now, and you bring it out beautifully, it's difficult to reproduce it. If you can reproduce your work, it then means you are not an artist, because artwork is supposed to be perfect. Once it is perfect, it's difficult to bring another, a second one to be as perfect as the first one. So even when you produce two things of similar characteristics, they can never be the same. There must be differences in them.
African arts and crafts have existed since the origin of the people. In history books, African arts dates back to 500 BC, when knock culture was in existence. African rock arts is confirmed to be 6,000 years old. Ancient Egyptian arts, which incorporate hieroglyphics, the beginning of formal writing, also has a long history. Also worthy of mention is the Nsebede, the secret language of the Ekpe society in Calabar, which dates back to the origin of the Efik people. All these, however, cannot be said to be the true origin of arts and crafts in Africa. Arts is an innate thing in the African. The culture, tradition, norms, myths, and beliefs have arts embedded in them.
Right from inception, when a man is created, his artwork is also with him because it's part and parcel of his life.
The original home of the African, the huts, are artistically designed. The clubs used for hunting, the baskets used for carrying goods, water storage pots, pottery, wooden and calabash plates for eating, native wooden and calabash spoons are all an integral part of the African arts, as these form part of the day-to-day living. Simply put, Africa and arts and craft are synonymous. The problem with African arts before now had been an inferiority complex created by foreign writers who knew next to nothing about African culture. and so created scenarios of idol worshipping and heathen representation in our original, unadulterated artworks. Today, however, the purity of African arts is expressing itself. The originality and uniqueness of African arts works stand on its own. The skills portrayed in the production of these artworks show the ingenuity and expertise of the makers. The aesthetics of African arts and crafts have been a case for study. In the contemporary African society, master craftsmen and women are emerging. Unlike before, when works could not be linked to their original creators, the modern African traditional artist exhibits great artworks which attract appreciation devoid of race. One such artist is Nike Ekundaye.
When you talk of indigo in Nigeria and in fact Africa, Nike is number one. She has this ambition to keep the old tradition going. To keep the old tradition going. And that is why she's so particular about the indigo dye. That is what makes her work unique. Because the indigo is something outside the European dye. Natural. And that is what is thrilling the Western world.
She's actually a renowned textile artist known world over. She's won many awards, but she has been doing paintings right from the onset alongside with her textiles work. So that side of her art has somehow been silent, though it has been acknowledged in some write-ups in articles, in maybe on the internet, but most academicians don't really know too much about her paintings, which she has been doing. She's also done collaborative painting with Tola Wewe, who is a renowned Nigerian painter.
Art gallery and exhibitions used to be associated with towns and cities. Recently, however, these have been brought to the rural community. This innovation has provided an appropriate setting for African arts, as the natural setting, the ambience and local color will generate a better sense of appreciation of the works. Such as exhibition will be a prop to some native cultural activity which exists in all African societies. This was the case in Ogidi community during the New Yam Festival, as Nike Ekundaye, along with other great artists, had an arts exhibition. It was a major digression from the regular city arts exhibition, as visitors from Africa and beyond savored the nature in the African, from the colorful artistic performances on the grounds of the New Yam Festival to the expressionist paintings and crafts in the exhibition hall.
You call it Olaga. It's Olaga. Okay, we they go outside. They go Ilorin, go another Abuja, Yara, even though Kaba. We take two weeks now to learn before we know how to
nǹkan tí mo mọ̀ ní gẹ́gẹ́ bí eégún wa yẹn Yàgbó is our culture nítorí pé mo dáyé wá bá ni bàbá tó bí mi lọ́mọ ó dáyé wá bá ni gẹ́gẹ́ bó ṣe ń wáyé kò ṣe àkọ́kọ́ tó mọ̀ àfi Ọlọ́run nìkan ló mọ̀ tọ̀ ìgbà tí bàbá mi ń ṣe olójẹ́ bí aṣojú eégún àgbò mo tún take over mo tún wà nínú ẹ̀ gbogbo tó wá fẹ́ ṣe ní community gẹ́gẹ́ bí àgbò wọ́n á pè mí ṣùgbọ́n àti ọ̀run ló ti ń wá.
Surely, African arts and crafts live in the African. The designs in the apparels, the headgear on regular function appearances, or the colorful body paintings, the unique props and instruments with matching dexterity in performances all point to this fact.
This is local color. African art, as you have seen, is very unique. Stay with us and find out more.
An expository of African way of life is in Nike's gallery. There is pottery and ceramics, beadworks, basketry, dolls, metalwares. This artist has traversed the various African arts and craft forms, including music, standing her out as an icon among contemporary African creative artists. The cultural troupe nurtured by Nike could thrill any crowd the world over. This arts exhibition is Nike's first in her home community, Ogidi, in Kogi State, north central Nigeria. According to Nike, the works are a fabrication of real-life situations and experiences. They comprise a marriage of the past and the present, and the artworks are ancient and ancestral lifestyles immortalizing their African heritage. Beauty of form has become an overriding factor, and originality and innovation could be seen in this exhibition. Two artists who displayed their works on this exhibition alongside Nike are artists who have made a mark in the arts world. Ngozi Akonde, a leading figure of the Female Artists Association of Nigeria, is of Igbo stock, married to an Ogidi man. She says the theme of the exhibition is Back to the Roots, which coincides with the essence of the New Yam Festival recently revived in the community.
The exhibition is part of the events happening here in Ogidi land. The theme of the exhibition is Back to My Roots. I am Ngozi Akonde, an Igbo lady married to an Ogidi man, Mr. Thomas Akonde. And Nike, Chief Nike Okundaye, is a native of this land and married outside this land. So you can now understand why the theme, Back to My Roots. That's the first time Nike is having an exhibition in her own homeland. And this is my first time also having an exhibition in this land after 25 years of marriage. So we felt that we are part and parcel of this community, that it would be a good idea for us to feature our talent and handwork during this Ogidi Festival, Ogidi Day Festival, because right here, the people know us, but they don't actually know our worth. It's true that Mominike has a gallery here, but the people have not actually seen her work as a painter. She paints. She's more known for her Adire works. But we decided that during this 2015 Ogidi Day, we should have an art exhibition as part of the event for this year. This is Miss Media Art. Here you have a cloth. This one you have wood back, like, then you have oil or acrylic and canvas. So when one or more than one material is used for a particular work, that's when you call it a mixed media work. The title of this work is Survival. Survival is like, this is a woman, a stylized woman, and her handwork is to weave. So this is part of the clothes she has woven, and she needs to sell this work to be able to feed her family. This mixed media work is in series, like my handwork, her handwork feeds the home. And we realize that women, most of the time, are the ones that engage in handworks to be able to, you know, turn them into resources that could take care of the family. The husband goes to work or maybe goes to the farm. Most of the time, the woman is either engaged in knitting, weaving, crocheting, tie-dye, and she takes this to the market to sell. And it generates money, and she uses it to assist the husband. So her handwork feeds the home. The theme of this, the title of this painting is The Broken Calabash. This painting was used for an exhibition to stop sexual abuse on women in conflict. You know of crisis in West Africa, you talk of Sudan, you talk of Somalia, you talk of the Boko Haram. And women suffer. You are aware of the Chibok girls. Some of them are virgins that have been disvirgined. The broken calabash is that intact of a woman that has been broken through rape, through abuse. So this woman, this painting reflects on what women go through, the abuse women go through in conflicts. The broken calabash. The title of this work is Prayer is the Answer. You're aware of the challenges we went through, or we are still going through with explosions, killings, and the challenges we are facing in this country. And it was with that particular feeling I had that I felt that we need to pray. We need to pray. So this hand is in supplication to God to come to the aid of this country, that all the challenges we are facing, that God should come to our aid. You find out that in most West African countries, like the printed fabrics are done by women. If you go to Côte d'Ivoire, if you go to Ghana, the kente works are done by mostly women. The basket weaving are done by mostly women. And they generate money through this handwork, and they use it to assist the family. So that's the essence of this painting, and it's also a mixed media work. The title of this work is Heal Up My Wounds. This is bra decoration. Bra decoration. And this cereal, they're in cereals. A kind of feeling I have for people suffering from breast cancer. So this series of artworks is a kind of consolation for people suffering from cancer, to be able to tell them that there's someone out there that feels their pain, that is feeling, that has that feeling of, sympathy. I won't call it sympathy because I know the God Almighty knows why, but that somebody is feeling the same pain they are feeling through the production of this artwork.
So the artwork is in series, but this is the only one featuring in this exhibition.
Ngozi says African female artists are making their mark and will soon be on the driver's seat of arts.
Our women, after marriage, they don't practice this profession. We belong to the bigger association, that's the Society of Nigerian Artists. But we find out that we are being swallowed by the men. And when events come out, if we have events that involve the Society of Nigerian Artists, very few women participate. We now said, right, let's form the women wing of the SNA. And we came up with the Female Artists Association of Nigeria. And I tell you that we have more than 200 members. Anytime we have exhibition, these women come out. They exhibit their works, they paint every year. So every year they are ready and looking forward to our annual exhibition. And these women have also been encouraged. They've been having solo exhibitions because when they come out to see what other people do, other women do, they're encouraged. The ones that are lazy, they are gingered up to be able to go back to their studio to practice. You can see somebody like Mominike, she's a workaholic, she works. So why not me at my age? So we encourage them, we have workshops, we have seminars that we bring out these women and encourage them to paint and exhibit and participate in exhibitions.
The human figure has always been the primary subject matter for most African arts. This is confirmed in the works of Sorsen, an upcoming artist who says every work of art is an expression of individual, even though one could be influenced by the works of predecessors.
My works basically in stylistic outlook, that's style when we talk about how they appear. You could characterize them as post-impressionist paintings. And in post-impressionism, what you see, basically, the features you see, they're more like lines, vibrant colors. Then they deal with the structure of the painting, how it looks like. You know, because post-impressionism took after impressionism. Impressionism was after capturing the immediacy of light, the momentary sensation of light on forms. I've always been interested in the female species. I love women. Maybe you call me a womanizer or feminist. Why I did this, I've observed women for a long period of time, and I've discovered that they are the most self-conscious species that God created. It's only a woman you see her on a bike with her mirror trying to check herself, and so this is a young lady trying to dress up herself to look good. The work is titled Frenzied Tunes. So what I did, it's a semi-abstract composition of figures, women I saw from northern Nigeria dancing. So I needed to get that vibration, that feel of excitement. That's why I have these broken lines connecting each other. The work is titled Introspection. This is a young lady who was engaged in self-thought. Why I did this is a lot of issues that get us entrapped in life. If we really engage in thinking, critical thinking, we'll be able to solve most of these issues. Here, these are some of the issues going on the lady's mind, portrayed here with lines and strokes.
I was born into the art, and at the early age, after I lost my mother at the age of 6, my great-grandmother taught me, and that is how I become an artist today. So my direct background, a lot of the people in this village, you will see them behind their yard. They do indigo, they do hand woven, which we call ashoke. Then they do blacksmith. Most of this recycle is from Ogidi. They will go to Kaba to buy the thrown away. So the art lives in my village.
This painting basically represents like all the new yams in the community, and as a symbol of the new yam is something called new growth, basically. So I think that's what the new yams represent. And my mom did this artwork 2 years ago. This is made out of beads. So basically, she just like picked all the beads of like different colors, then painted over them. And these are all the people in the market. So this is basically like a market scene and essence of yam, basically.
This is a recycle from turning trash to treasure. And the pipe represents the hand of the, and this one is a show how you can put trash and turn it to treasure. So this is carrying somebody at the back, and this is him, and all the other thing is having there, they are all part of the decoration of motorcycle that he has put into pieces. So now taking the bicycle to go home. So I call it motorcycle accident. This work is done by Adeola Balogun, and you can see the map of Africa with the bottle tops. That is Africa for you. And this one is spoon to represent the spider. And all these, they are the thing from the fan, big air conditioned fan. So that is what you are seeing. But the African with the tire, people use tire to pollute the air. And the only way they can stop it is to put it to do artwork.
Modern African arts, like those on this exhibition, tend to favor three-dimensional works over two-dimensional ones. The uniqueness in Nike's artworks has generated interest in arts appreciation masters. Dorcas Ibrahim says Nike's arts is turning trash to treasure. This fresh artist expression is what Dorcas wants to explore on the works of Nike Kundayo in a PhD research study.
In my study, I'm out to highlight the painting career of Nike Davis Okundaye alongside with her textile work. She's what we call a self-trained artist, because although she was workshop trained at Oshogbo in the early 1960s, but she developed her painting skills herself, and she has evolved a particular style. There are about 3 styles that I've noticed about her work. One of them is that in which she does textile patterns at the background of her work, which is quite unique. And those textile patterns, batik and adire patterns, she painstakingly brings them out in those works. It's quite unique. And then she's done some other works that bring out Nigerian traditional culture in her work. And the paintings are really rich. And that is why she's been involved in so many exhibitions, both in Nigeria and overseas. So I think her painting needs to really be brought to the limelight.
The taboo to the African female in masks and masquerades seems to be smoothly given way without the axiomized consequences laid down in ancestral myths. This is a product of Nike's expression in her works, crafts, and the African theater. The designs of her adire are decorative clothes worn as ceremonial garments which transform the wearer into a living sculpture. As she moves African arts back to the roots, it is believed that original forms will be preserved and young Africans will keep the arts and crafts original in Africa alive.
This is all we can take on the program today. My name is Bello Bolatife. Hope you enjoyed it all.
When there's a child out there that's not getting the same that your own child is getting, the difference will tell, and there will come a time in the society where that child is going to take its pound of flesh.
Where you can actually, everything from watching a program with the child, you can start up the conversation from something on the TV and say, oh, you know.
For me, it's like, hurry up with this business. And the other one said, Auntie, it's not about me, it's about the guys. They're not ready to marry.
Yes. If she wants to ask something, no, I know my mother very well. In fact, the most interesting one is when I put up pictures on WhatsApp, you know, Snapchat filters and all that, she will call me, remove that picture. There was a day, I got tired of all that and I said,
This is the network service of the NTA.
The federal government, in its quest to make a success of its anti-corruption battle, has continuously wished to involve the people. And now there is a new dimension to involving the people, and that is in the whistleblower policy. How new is this policy in our jurisdiction, the Nigerian jurisdiction? How protected is the whistleblower? These and more we shall be looking at on the scale today. Welcome to the program. I am Femi Okeowo. To be a whistleblower, you can be either an individual or part of an organization. Already in existence are some organizations that are classified as whistleblowers. The EFCC itself, or the ICPC, or indeed any anti-corruption body can as well go for a whistleblower organization. And now, but individuals are being encouraged to take up this responsibility too. How protected are they under the law? What actually does the law say? Or is there a law that covers this policy that is now being fully encouraged by the federal government? We have spoken to some lawyers who have tried to look into the law and see how Nigerians can cash in into this policy and get themselves fully protected, so that at the end of blowing the whistle, you are not left high and dry to the mercies of the victim or the culprit, as the case may be. So let's join our resource persons who look into the law as it concerns this policy. What does the law say about the whistleblower policy which the government has just brought up now? Knowing that EFCC, ICPC, and other such organizations, they themselves are whistleblowers by the law.
I think whistleblowing is a recognized model of fighting illegalities and improper conduct in the society. it is well established in America, and most of the states there, they have what they call whistleblowers protection law. And it is always between the employees and employers, so that when an employee blows the whistle in respect of what the employer is trying to do, which is illegal, then that whistleblower will be protected under the law, so that the employer cannot victimize, dismiss, or sack such kind of patriotic employee. In Nigeria, it is at the stage of policy. I'm aware there is a bill as far back as 2008 before the National Assembly. Whistleblowers Protection Bill is still there. It contains a lot of provisions. I don't know when it is going to be passed. But as a policy, there is no law against it, as far as I know. And I think in a limited way, both the ICPC and EFCC, they have whistleblowing policies embedded in their act. But the pending whistleblowing bill in the National Assembly is wider. It's not just employers, it's also members of general public. Anybody can, if you have good information, on reasonable suspicion, you can go and tell the appropriate authorities. There are several layers of people. You can even go and tell your chief if you're in the village. You can go and tell the IG, you can go and tell the Attorney General. You put it in writing. If you are unable to write, there are elastic provisions there that you can be assisted, and then the whistle will be blown in your own way.
From the jurisdictions we are seemingly copying now, it would seem as if it's not necessarily a faceless job.
It is not, because when you blow whistle, you need to identify yourself clearly. You need to state your address. You need to state your name. And then, so as to avoid or discourage frivolous whistleblowings, malicious whistleblowings, baseless whistleblowing, because some may use it to go and settle score. For example, somebody in somebody's house, a prominent public figure went somewhere with a bag of crayfish or fish, dry fish, and then he dropped the fish. The next thing, some people went and blew irresponsible whistle. Then the security agency swooped in there. They went in there thinking that it was a bag of money for safekeeping by the... And they said, look, he brought fish. And let us see, why is the case? This is the case. Why is the fish? This is the difference that the fish is there. And then they had to smell the fish from the bags. And then that was how the whole thing was. If such a character who blew such kind of whistle without basis, I think there has to be, such a person ought to be dealt with. Yeah.
And so in our present laws, there are provisions for giving information to security agencies already in our laws as it is now. How have those ones been utilized so far from your
I don't think as much as well utilized. As a matter of fact, under the Police Act, everybody is a policeman, in quote. If you see high offense being committed, you as an individual, a serious offense being committed in your presence, you can effect an arrest under the law. Where you cannot do that, you can report. So, in a way, we are all whistleblowers. But the whole idea of this whistleblowing policy now is, I think, geared towards chasing quote-unquote looters, those who are hiding money, so that those who have information can go and say, oh, look, he's keeping money in a septic tank here. Oh, he's keeping money under the floor here. He has stolen money from A, B, C, D, F. So, but there must be basis for it. Not just trying to settle scores with somebody who has gathered his money legitimately, and then you now go ahead and blow irresponsible whistle, which will lead to an irresponsible arrest, incompetent prosecution, and I don't know.
As we are now, since we are still waiting for this bill to be passed, under the EFCC and ICPC Act, what are the protections that are available for a whistleblower that supplies either the police or these agencies information?
To the best of my knowledge, not much, other than they can be given cover. But if an employee blows whistle in respect of the employer, he or she may be dismissed without any protection today under the law. It is when the bill is passed that there can be a recognized edge of protection for such people. But as it is today, I do not think the provisions in the ICPC and EFCC are elastic enough to protect them from victimization, dismissal, and all what's happening. Perhaps surveillance on their house to protect them from being attacked, yes. But when it comes to being dealt with by their employers, where the whistle in respect of their employers, I do not think they have, the protection is not as robust and elastic as contained in the incoming bill. Yeah. Okay. Which, for reasons, we don't know why it has not been passed.
Okay. When we talk about this policy, we also look at one area that has been around since the EFCC tried to mute this idea. Now it has been provided for by the law in the Administration of Criminal Justice Act, and that is the plea bargain. What is the plea bargain as decided or as defined by the Administration of Criminal Justice Act? We also look at this area. Let's look at another dimension of the law. That one is already established. It is the plea bargain in the law. What provisions have the Administration of Criminal Justice Act, which eventually legitimizes the plea bargain? How does it look under the provision?
It's very elastic. It's contained in Section 270 of the new law. And it provides that it can even come from the prosecutor, not necessarily from the defendant and accused person. It's very elastic, and the stages and what are the parameters to be met before it can be applicable, and how a judge should be detached from it, and when they have all agreed, and then the question will now be put to the accused person or the defendant, whether it is true. If he says yes, then it becomes the judgment of the court, which under that provision is unappealable except fraud is alleged. But where he says no, no, I do not agree to this, then that is the end of the matter, and no reference can be made to it under the law. In subsequent trials, no reference can be made to it, and the trial has to be before a totally different judge, not the judge who has put the question to him and he repudiates it.
Why would a suspect, an accused, deny it if it is a bargain he agreed to, except if it comes from the prosecutor, for instance?
Well, maybe upon due reflection, he may not agree to the terms,
okay,
and that may be rushed. It may be filed without his knowledge, or perhaps it's his counsel that has represented him all throughout, okay, and when the question is now put to him in the court, it's not completely agreeable to it. So he has the liberty, he has the right to repudiate and turn it down.
So if he turns it down, will that matter be tried all over?
All over. But there will be no reference to all admissions made.
Okay.
And it will be before a totally new judge.
And it will be tried as if he pleaded not guilty?
Completely. Okay. Completely. There will be no reference, okay, to that aborted, yes, bargain, okay, quote and unquote. Yes. There will be no reference to it.
Now, Nigerians are very skeptical about plea bargain because they say it involves, in most instances, it is used only in, for instance, high-profile financial matters. They say the common man on the street is not given an opportunity to plea bargain. Is that true?
I believe your ability to the same land you have utilized in erecting a bungalow. The man with means will use it and put a 20-story building. Both are houses. So it all depends on your ability, the kind of lawyers that you have, the understanding that they have, and how far they can utilize the various opportunities available under the law. So I do not think there is a deliberate policy to exclude low-level people from taking advantage of the plea bargain provision. But I must say that the whole idea of plea bargain is to avoid such trials that will have the tendencies of overtasking the system and the apparatus of the state. So it is in the interest of both the state, the accused, and the victim to come into a conclusion immediately or shortly, rather than going through the whole hog of trial, which may open all sorts of kind of worms, which may not be in the interest of the society at the long run. So small crimes may not fit into the application of plea bargain in the real sense of it. So what gave birth to it? Yes, all crimes, yes. But in the real sense of it, I was asking a very senior lawyer one day, and I said, look, why are you considering plea bargain on this matter? He said, look here, if we have to go through the whole hog, the next 15 years will be on this matter. How far will that one carry us? The state will not have access to this money. It will just be attached there. The accused will not have his liberty fully restored. He cannot use the money. The society that is supposed to benefit from it, which is the victim, because the society here is the victim, is not reaping the benefit of anything. And it is only those who are alive that can really say, this is what I've benefited from this. Is it when they are all dead as a sort of hunger? So, in the real sense, plea bargain is meant for potentially sophisticated trials, which may drag for too long, and therefore not in the interest of the state. Yeah.
Now, because the Administration of Criminal Justice Act is the law that eventually legitimizes the plea bargain, other than the EFCC trying to use it before now, let's have your assessment of the Administration of Criminal Justice Act as a law that helps us to get our criminal justice moving properly.
I think a lot of improvements have come into trial since the introduction of the Administration of Criminal Justice Act. And tremendously, most of the judges have been using it in the way and manner that some of the trials have been moving on at a very good speed. For example, I did a matter under the Act in the Federal Court. It started in 2013, and by 2015, we were in Supreme Court with a full judgment, not an interlocutory matter, substantive courtesy of the Act. Because of the fast track, because of the premium placed on the alleged crime in the matter was able to move at a very good speed. And then on plea bargain, I'm not aware of any court-ordered one, or court-sanctioned one, or court-approved one, so to speak. But I believe a good number of these must be under the table being packaged. We'll soon begin to see the results. So, as far as I'm concerned, the Act is good, is working very well, and all we need to plead with the operators is that we should be guided more by the spirit rather than the letter. And what is the spirit? It is to quicken, fasten, and hasten the administration of justice in Nigeria, criminal justice in particular, so that cases, there will not be a lot of awaiting trials then you overstretch the detention camps, the prisons, and then the EFCC camps, the DSS camps, people staying there for 2-3 years. That shouldn't be. It shouldn't be. Even prison awaiting trial, shouldn't be. When there's a trial, it should be attended to promptly so that people will know their fate. If you are serving sentence, you know you are serving sentence. You are being tried, let us know your fate as quickly as possible. So far, so good, as far as I'm concerned.
But in some other cases, we have seen that some of the matters keep dragging. While you have an instance you can cite, Nigerians still can look at cases that are still dragging in courts.
Well, I quite agree with you. Some are still dragging for numerous reasons. Some of them dragging because of not so well coordinated investigation. Some dragging because the courts are congested, because there is no, for example, with the best of intentions, there's a limit to the number of cases a judge can take. Let us admit that one frankly. And if a judge must have to be sitting for in excess of 9-10 hours in a day, then the life of the judge is in danger, especially writing in longhand. Then, at times, with the best of intentions, the judge is ready to go on, one witness or the other not available. What is going to happen? And the judge has a lot of other matters scheduled already on in his diary. So for them to adjourn, they have to look for another further date. Then also some negligible few using some tantrums to delay with one kind of frivolous application or the other. That all these combined are some of the elements or reasons why we have delay in some of the matters. Okay. But by and large, I think it is not as bad as it used to be before the law came into being.
Okay, let's conclude on the way we started. Let me get your opinion. Would you advise individuals, for now, to assist government in whistleblowing, knowing that there's no law, for instance, per se, on it for now?
Well, it is a government policy, and as a responsible citizen, we must all encourage the government. We must support the government, because the government is our protector. The government has come up with the policy to assist us. We too, we are the greatest beneficiaries. Ditto will be the victim of bad governance. We have a duty to support the government. However, because of the limited protection, let the potential whistleblowers be very careful. I repeat, let them be very careful. Let it not be on a baseless report. Let it not be malicious, because the protection now is a bit limited and very, very slender and weak.
Can the agency turn around and prosecute somebody who gives false information?
Oh, why not? Especially if there is no basis and if it is malicious. An employee working in a place, he has committed fraud. He has committed fraud. And the employer is about to deal with him. Yes. Then, to create confusion and diversion, he has gone to blow irresponsible whistle. Authorities step in, they discover that actually it is he that should go to the gallows, to jail, not his employer. That kind of a character.
Even if they find that the content of his whistle is also true of the employer. He had committed fraud, but then he also also has information about his employer. Would they prosecute the two of them?
Of course, why not? Okay. That is where I'm going to. Okay. The fact that you have blown whistle will not guarantee immunity. Okay. It will not be an immunity for you in respect of your own past iniquities.
Okay.
As the employer is facing his own, you also, you face your own. Because, yes, you are a whistleblower. Okay, the employer too will blow their own whistle on you. So that both of you will go inside. You are both misfits. So the long and short is that the fact that you have blown whistle does not confer on you any immunity in respect of your past misdeeds.
Those are the areas we have looked at on the scale today. We have tried to see how Nigerians can understand fully their role in the fight against corruption. And of course, at the end of it all, we know that the system and the individuals are all the better for it. We hope you have enjoyed this edition of The Scale, looking at what the law says about some critical areas that concerns you. Thank you for being part of the program, and we'll see you again.
Our programs are getting better and fresher. And it's because we are thinking about you. NTA, it's all about you.
This is where it all happens.
Is where dreams are made.
You know, another thing that bothers me with makeup is the cost. You know?
The host for the night.
Art, photography, fashion, and editorial at the same time.
In the school of entrepreneurship, there is no failure.
There's no substitute for books in the lives of children.
I love the law because it's you read a lot, and I like to read.
And what has food got to do with it? Our nutritionist will be telling us more.
The values of 3 angles at the point are 3D.
It comes with high fever.
The analysis.
It was finally
The Scale decided to go out to speak to quite a number of lawyers.
You are very right. Eyes have it. Hot Sports, your unique source of sport information, education, and entertainment.
What did they say?
We just told her.
I'm stranded.
And I want to drop time.
You're asking me to come back now for 1,500 naira. Not so.
He has been indulging in such pastime only to discredit me.
Don't you know why you lied to my mom? You know that made her cancel our engagement.
What is it?
Mindset has eroded your sense of discernment.
You are a brick ring, a broke man, a prodigal.
Professor, your friend, over and out.
NTAE brings you the best of entertainment.
I thought I was being sarcastic.
I went on to do other productions.
Everything music.
Hear what Richmond is saying.
If you look at the platforms of
For a particular product.
They call a new school playing. That thing they hot or we go carry the hair go come and got the smell.
Somebody sad, you feel it.
Just a little. I know this. Chop, they are already washed.
Age is all a mindset. Delicious.
To a president.
They depended on Jesus.
What else can I do? Get a shower couple and dancers.
Watch these programs and more on NTA Entertainment Channel 105 on Star Times. NTAE, your one-stop entertainment channel.
Information is power. Everyone wants power.
Through our individual national efforts, state institutions are being strengthened to promote accountability and to combat corruption and asset recovery.
President Buhari reaffirms Nigeria's commitment to democratic ideals in Africa, seeks global collaboration to combat terrorism.
We are committed to active implementation of a new development agenda for the Niger Delta region, Vice President Oshibajo tells foreign investors.
We should be guided by a rule of law and grow confidence in the Nigerian citizens.
There are concerted efforts that attempt to make Nigeria a better place. Governor Ikpeazu tells journalists after briefing Vice President on the situation in his state.
And on Good Morning Nigeria this Wednesday, we shall focus on Zero Hunger Forum and the speech of President Muhammadu Buhari at the 72nd United Nations General Assembly.
Africa's wealthiest man, Aliko Dangote, recently called for urgent actions to protect Nigeria and from the risk of different risks and their consequences of hunger due to over-reliance on the importation. Dangote was quoted to have said that by 2020, it is estimated that the Nigerian population would have risen to be between 207 million and 210 million if we do not make efforts to grow and process our own food. God forbid, we will not go hungry.
or rather will go hungry. Well, blessing, Dangote is not alone in thinking along that line. Politicians, businessmen, clerics, stakeholders, and even the international community have continued in their urgent calls for actions to end hunger in Nigeria. In fact, the federal government, at the commemoration of the 2015 World Food Day, pledged to end hunger by 2030, or even before, by boosting food production.
Now, consequently, a homegrown solution reflecting Nigerians' perspectives of steps needed to be taken to win the battle against hunger and malnutrition has been developed to facilitate the actualization of the policy, with former President Olusegun Obasanjo chairing the development of the synthesis reports. And this is what we're going to be looking at.
Yes, Blessing. Yes, Blessing. No, because President Obasanjo actually, in reference to the development, says the report would support and encourage the government to implement the policies, strategies, plans, and programs that have been formulated over many years, and to do so with a focus on achieving zero hunger by 2030, if not earlier.
Now, that also falls in line with goal number 2 of the Sustainable Development Goals, SDG, which aims to end hunger, achieve food security, as well as improve nutrition and promote sustainable agriculture. Now, Nigeria has endorsed the SDGs to lift more than 13 million of our population from hunger.
Now, that's right, Blessing, because Nigeria's situation became more precarious with the displacement of some 2.1 million people from the northeast geopolitical zone. Of course, raising the number of people in need of food assistance in the region, which, of course, can be put at 4.5 million.
Now, already, the Zero Hunger Program, which is being executed in partnership with the African Development Bank and the International Institute for Tropical Agriculture, is on pilots of about 4 pilot states, I beg your pardon, namely Benue, Ebonyi, Ogun, as well as Sokoto. And by January 2019, 8 more states are expected to have joined this program. And by January 2021, all 36 states plus the Federal Capital Territory will be included.
And critics will be quick to add that we have come along this path in the past with many policies and programs with similar laudable intentions introduced but failed to be executed to the latter, questioning whether this will be different this time around.
Well, Kirian, how different that will be? Those are some of points we are going to raise with our guests as they join us in the part of the discussion at that time on the program. Good Morning Nigeria today, taking a look at the Zero Hunger Initiative and also to know what it's all about. And guess what? Said this is in collaboration with the AFDB and as well as some other international partners. Now, guess what the AFDB president, Akinwumi Adesina, said? He said, do you know where the next set of billionaires will come from? Certainly farmers. So if you don't have a farm now, you should actually get back to the land and actually till that which will feed other people. And as you feed, you're actually feeding your own bank account as well. So what makes it different from past programs aimed at ensuring food security as well as boosting food production? Where are we now? Where do we intend to go? And how do we intend to go there? Who is to do what and when?
All right, maybe time has come when Africans or farmers will become billionaires, especially in Nigeria. Yeah, when many people are taking to agriculture now. Okay, before whatever we're going to talk about on this, we will be discussing the address of the President Muhammadu Buhari at the 72nd United Nations General Assembly, where the President clearly reaffirmed Nigeria's stand to democratic ideals in Africa, particularly leading ECOWAS effort in the restoration of democratic governance. I am Kirian Umayo, welcoming to the program.
My name is Blessing Abu. I joined Kirian to welcome you to today's edition of Good Morning Nigeria, showing live on the network service of the Nigerian Television Authority, NTA. In the course of the program, as usual, we'll bring to you our companion segment. We'll take a look at the sports. We'll also do the review with the newspaper this morning. Foreign as well as entertainment news will not be left out. But before then, here's Paul Ogechi with the news. Good morning, Ogechi.
Good morning, Blessing and Kieran. Welcome to IAM News. And good morning, Nigeria. President Muhammadu Buhari has reaffirmed Nigeria's stand to democratic ideals in Africa, particularly in ECOWAS's effort in the restoration of democratic governance in the Gambia and Cote d'Ivoire. He said that these were delivering Nigeria's national statement during the general debate of the 72nd session of the United Nations General Assembly in New York. The President called for the sustenance of international collaborative efforts in fighting international terrorism towards attaining peace in the world.
We must collectively devise strategies and mobilize the required responses to stop fleeing ISIS fighters from mutating and infiltrating into the Sahel and the Lake Chad Basin, where there are insufficient resources and the response capacity is weak.
Well, in the meantime, Joy Osiago in Manhattan, New York, reports that Nigeria's U.S. Business Investment Forum, hosted by the Federal Ministry of Industry, Trade and Investment, and the Nigerian Investment Promotion Commission, NIPC, with the 72nd UN General Assembly, has yielded positive results for local domestic investment in major sectors of the economy.
What they want to see from us is government commitment to really provide the environment for them, and that's precisely what this government is doing.
Well, back home, Vice President Yemi Oshibajo has reiterated the commitment and resolve of the Buhari administration to the active implementation of a new development agenda for the Niger Delta region. Vice President said this when interacting with a group of foreign investors who paid him a courteous visit.
These investors visit Nigeria once a year to look at opportunities that exist in our country, so they may take those opportunities.
Abia State Governor Chikeze Bayazu says there are enough reasons to see that under the present circumstance the nation is in, there are concerted efforts that attempt to make it a better place. Speaking to the press at the presidential villa after a visit to the vice president, the governor advises Nigerians, especially the press, that as perception builders, good things must be said about the country. While commending the resolve of the people of the country to live together in peace and unity, Governor Basu notes that issues of differences could be discussed rather than carrying up arms, which he emphasized would not grow the prosperity of the people.
Everybody, I think we should be guided by a rule of law and grow confidence in the Nigerian citizen that under our laws that he is protected everywhere.
Nigerian politicians have been told to stop over-politicizing issues in connection with indigenous people of Biafra, IPOB. Chairman Northern Governors Forum and Borno State Governor Kashim Shettima said such action will not be in the interest of the nation. He gives advice at a peace meeting held in Government House Owerri, Imo State.
I believe the narrative will change. The narrative will be for national unity, for national cohesion, and for national development.
Governments must learn to resist each other. Firstly, that we can learn to each other who is not my friend. And if we do so, there will be this nation.
And the last report says that 12-member board of the National Salaries, Income and Wages Commission has been inaugurated. Acting Secretary of the Government of the Federation performed the ceremony in Abuja.
Reiterate once again that the change mantra of the Buhari administration must not be compromised. As you know, the administration has zero tolerance for any form of corruption, hence the interest and the general well-being of this country should be topmost priority in the discharge of your official duties.
Well, that's the news for now. Good Morning Nigeria continues with Blessing and Kieran after the break.
From 1967 to 1970, Nigeria went through a horrifying civil war. It didn't matter who was wrong or right. Everybody suffered. Those who fought that war say it should never happen again.
So a lot of people will say, but you were leading the first one. Yes, I led the first one. I don't think a second one is necessary. We should have learned from that first one. Otherwise, the dead would have been to no avail, could all have been in vain.
The words of our elders are full of wisdom.
This is a public service announcement brought to you by NTA.
I feel alive, so alive, when I'm with my best friends, indulging my G-exotic taste of paradise. Irresistible, everywhere I go, G-exotic. Nothing makes my drink more than when the mixer is delightful, G-exotic. And after a long day, I wanna relax with the taste of my G-exotic. Yeah, sinking and get lost. Taste of relaxation, too good not to share. The taste of affection. Oh, say I love the taste of G-exotic. I love the taste of G-exotic. We love the taste of G-exotic. Nothing like the taste of my G-exotic. I love the taste of G-exotic. Nothing like the taste of my G-exotic.
Oh, I love the taste.
G-exotic nectar. I love the taste.
Helen! You do great value shopping. Absolutely. I'm a champion at getting value. Then you must have bought the Hapic 200 ml. Why Hapic when I have this? Even after applying them 10 times, they won't give a sparkling clean toilet. Impossible. Challenge. Detergent and bleach can't give a sparkling clean toilet even after 10 times. But Hapic 200 ml gives a sparkling clean toilet at one go. Wow.
Hapic 200 ml. Real deal. Now only 200 naira.
Whenever pain occurs, you want quick relief. Try new Nurofen Express. It goes to the source of pain and gets to work in under 15 minutes. That's why Nurofen Express delivers fast and effective relief. New Nurofen Express works at the source of pain. Fast.
Being a mom is great, but when your child has a fever, you don't know what to do. I trust Nurofen for Children to take care of my child's pain and fever.
Effective relief you can trust.
They love your house girl.
There's girls out there gunning for Miss World. Who among them is as beautiful as you are?
They lure her out into a worse fate.
Free your mind, free, settle your mind.
They are only confident enough to woo house girls. They prowl like animals of prey. Sometimes they even get her to betray and lie against her oga or madam, or even harm the family she lives in. But what is their motive? Passion, love, affection, or keep a date with your rib-cracking comedy, Professor John Bull, this week in the episode titled House Girl Warrior.
Look at me, there's no space here anymore. If you're looking for your own wife, go elsewhere and find a wife.
You must not hear what I am talking. I was not your wife's.
Yeah, go.
Over and
Rogers, sir.
Brought to you by Glow.
The largest data network, Glow Unlimited.
On to business now. Nigerian Communication Commission says the number of internet users in Nigeria is decreasing and likely to fluctuate in the coming months, just as World Bank cuts South Africa's 2017 growth forecast. Let's now join Amina Nujaim for details and more stories on business news.
The Nigerian Communications Commission, NCC, has revealed that the number of people using the internet in Nigeria decreased in the month of July 2017. The number of users declined by over 91.6 million in June 2017 to over 91.4 million in July 2017, a decrease of 178,814. The communications industry regulator made this known in its monthly internet subscribers data fact sheet, which is published on its website. The figures revealed by the NCC represent internet users on both Global Systems Mobile GSM and Code Division Multiple Network. The drop in users has been attributed to numbers of conditions, which include a drop in the number of subscribers of major telecommunications companies. While the battle for market supremacy between telecom companies in Nigeria continues to rage on, the number of internet users will likely fluctuate over the next few months. The Nigerian Stock Exchange All-Share Index opened the week Monday bearish. That trend continued Tuesday as the market saw a depreciation of 0.08%. Next is a graphic summary. The Debt Management Office plans to sell 35 billion naira of bonds due in 2021 and 50 billion naira each of bonds due in 2027 and in 2037 using the Dutch auction system. Settlement is expected 2 days after the sale. The bonds are reopening of previous issues. The central bank has also announced plans to sell 140.9 billion naira worth of treasury bills at an auction this Thursday. Nigeria issues sovereign bonds each month to help fund its budget deficit, support local debt market, and maintain a benchmark for companies to follow. And finally, the World Bank on Tuesday have its 2017 growth forecast for South Africa after the economy fell into recession earlier this year. It said in a report that 2017 growth would probably be 0.6%, down from an earlier estimate of 1.1%. Growth is seen ticking up 1.1% next year and reaching 1.7% in 2019. The bank warned any prospects of recovery would remain fragile. President Jacob Zuma last month said South Africa's 2017 growth would be below 0.5%, down from a forecast of 1.3% in February after the economy fell into recession in the first quarter. And that's the size of business news today on Good Morning Nigeria. The program continues shortly. I am Amina Nujain.
Thank you very much, Amina Najim. Up next is a newspaper review segment.
And our newspaper reviewer, Bayo Altebi, just got into the studio. Boy, how was it this morning? It was wet this morning.
Another wet day, and the roads are slippery and very slow. Good morning, Kire. Good morning, Blessing.
Good morning,
and good morning, Nigeria.
Yes, we have the Vanguard. Let me start by giving you some of the stories trending on Vanguard newspapers. And above the nameplate, to have a man who only dreamed of owning a car and comfortable house. Page 22. That's the personality of the week, maybe for the newspaper. All right. Now, Customs intercepts another 475 rifles at Tinkan Island port. That's on page 7. Federal government moving to block IPOB's sources of funding, says the Minister of Information and Culture, Lai Mohammed. Details of that story is on page 30 of Vanguard. And the lead headline, Nigeria's foreign debt hits $15.05 billion in June. That's from the NBS. With the three riders, $3.64 billion, 0.4 trillion naira in 6 months. As domestic debt stand at 14.06 trillion naira. Private sector operators won on debt profile. Well, the details of that story is on page 30 of the Vanguard. And now moving down, the photograph here that we have here is just a kind of graphic illustration of some debt stock, Nigeria's public debt stock, as of June 30, 2017, in millions. Maybe Bayo could help us there. Then below that photograph, the graphics work now, we have inequalities within societies, root causes of instability, says Buhari. That's on page 8. Strike. Federal government meets ULC leaders, hold joint briefing today on page 8. Then Sukuk is unconstitutional, says CAN. That's the Christian Association of Nigeria. And below that we have SEC bans Ogunwoyi for life. Okay.
Okay, let's start off with the ones I have as well. Taking a look at some of the reports that they are contained in your own newspapers as well.
For the Nigerian Tribune this morning, Buhari wants United Nations cooperation on assets recovery and the war on Boko Haram. There are three writers to that particular story. Says North Korea greatest threat to mankind. Accuses Myanmar of ethnic cleansing as Trump threatens to totally destroy North Korea. Just beside the photograph is the story on the federal government and states what they owe. This is to total about 14.06 trillion naira and also $15.05 billion. This is a story credited to the NBS. And graphically, you have the list of the states, and this continues on the 9th page. Politicians should learn from AWU, HID's noble enduring legacies. This is come from a cleric. That story you find on pages 6 and 7. 13 states owing teachers' salary arrears. NUT is the one saying this, and you find more details on page 11. Airport concession, workers protest in Lagos. Find more details on page 9. Nigerian Air Force joins Operation Python Dance, and more details on page 8. Saraki wrong on IPOB. Army's decision in order. This is coming from the presidency. All the details as well on page 8. And still on IPOB, it's the lead story for the Independent newspaper. We will block IPOB funding sources. This comes from the federal government. Says action will be taken against sponsoring countries as they look for IPOB sponsors within APC. That is what PDP is saying. Look for IPOB sponsors within APC. Buhari at UN General Assembly, silent on IPOB, urges support against Boko Haram. And pro-Biafra agitators take protest to United Nations headquarters, headquarters in London as well as Switzerland. Bayo.
Yes, let's start with Kirian, with the foreign debt issue that you talked about.
Yes.
Well, it is a profile of Nigeria's foreign debt which has increased with a quantum of 3.64 billion to foreign profile of about 15.05 billion. The domestic stock is about 14 billion. Well, this is an analysis of what Nigeria owed. Some of the stock also concern domestic stock, which is about 39.377 billion. Government is trying to manage it, and they've tried to, as far as possible, not take more of it so that we don't unburden the economy. Meanwhile, President Muhammadu Buhari has urged the world community and told them that Nigeria, like the rest of the world, has faith in democracy and is unshakably firm. He says the regional group ECOWAS came together to uphold democracy in Gambia and Cote d'Ivoire, and therefore did an overview of developments around the world and expressed concern about nuclear deal, climate change, as well as North Korea's nuclear threat. The issues the president highlighted include stopping the fleeing of fighters from mutating, ISIS fighter from mutating in the Sahel and Chad region. They also call for a cooperation with African Union in conflict-prone areas. The areas of conflict that he identified include Yemen, Myanmar, and old conflict areas as the Middle East. He ended with Nigeria's proposition that a strong UN delegation should engage the North Korea leader. There was a false address also in circulation yesterday, and government presidency sources had to deny that. And in that address, it tried to mirror the main address. I want to presume that they got a copy of the deadline copy for publication, and they tried to insert some of their own. One of the things they inserted was that now when police, army slap you, now you go no say police be your friend. Can you imagine the president saying that to the UN General Assembly? Meanwhile, the presidency has asserted that the pronouncement by the Nigerian army that IPOB is a terrorist organization is in order. The special advisor to the president on the prosecution, Chief Okoye Obon Obla, says that the action of the executive was in order because the army is, for operational reasons, declare IPOB a terrorist organization. The Attorney General, however, will soon apply for a prescription in court as required by Section 2(1) of the Terrorism Act of 2011 as amended 2013. Meanwhile, Governor of Abia, Governor Okezie Ekweazu, who has been bearing the brunt of the crisis, was at the Asusu Villa to brief Vice President Professor Yemi Oshibajo. And he says he is confirming that in the whole of the country, IPOB was predicated to cause crisis that could have engulfed the whole of the country. He warned his kinsmen that any war will jeopardize the lives of 11.6 Igbo living in other regions of the nation. He says some are living as far as unlikely places as Sambisa. He called and said that governors are still trying to stabilize the fragile peace situation in the Southeast. He said he is more reassured by the visiting northern governors who have given assurances that they will try to ensure that there is peace and Nigerians are free to live peacefully anywhere and go about conducting their business.
Okay, thank you there, Bayo, for the analysis. Well, I have the Authority newspaper here. The Authority newspaper, in fact, has some stories that we have read in other newspapers like Nigeria external debt and all of that. Then above the nameplate, we have why we visited Southeast, South, Northern governors. Reps order freezing of Patience Jonathan's account on page 4 of Authority. Then their main headline is federal government to block IPOB's funding. We've read that in other papers.
We've taken that already. Yes. Just one more. Health workers trying to contain cholera in Borno, where 48 have said have died. That's in the independent newspaper, just at the foot of the paper, but just beside that. Health workers raised to contain cholera in Borno State. Then reps order banks on freeze Patient Jonathan's accounts. There are two writers to that story.
And then on Daily Trust, that's one interesting story on the foot of Daily Trust. It's to be a human angle story. The woman commits suicide as husband takes a second wife. That's on page 4. Sadly, and there are other ones like Aviation Union shut down airports over concession.
Sadly, that happened in Jahun local government area. The girl didn't want the husband to take a second wife. The other story, however, very encouraging, was one Uguchuku Chibwe who had his dogs barking. Apparently, he came out with a cutlass to find out what it was, and he discovered a python trying to swallow his puppies. He was able to overcome the python, and that happened in Lagos.
That's brave.
He killed the python.
Okay, Bayo, that's much you can take on the paper review this morning. We hope to see you again tomorrow.
Thank you very much.
That's Good Morning Nigeria. When we return from this break, we'll kickstart the first part of our conversation, taking a look at the President's address at the United Nations General Assembly. We'll be right back in a moment.
Unemployment, notably youth unemployment, features strongly in our party's manifesto. We intend to attack the problem promptly through revival of agriculture.
The 30K is going a long way. Actually, I bought an acre of land for 60K like 2012, and presently I have a cassava farm and a yam farm.
The Nigeria of our dreams is our collective responsibility. Take advantage of the Voluntary Assets and Income Declaration Scheme, VADES. Declare your full assets and income and regularize your tax status with VADES, which is on from July 1st, 2017 till March 31st, 2018. It attracts no interest, no penalty, no tax prosecution, and no tax audit. Declare early to avoid interest and penalties. Visit www.vase.gov.ng or the nearest tax office for more information. This message is brought to you by the Federal Government, Federal Inland Revenue Service, and States Boards of Internal Revenue. VADES. I declare, my duty, my nation.
Hate speech
is not a joke. It incites genocide and crimes against humanity. Most of Africa's civil wars are caused by hate speech from one tribe against another. We don't want it here. The Nigerian government stands firm against hate speech.
I was distressed to notice that some of the comments, especially in the social media, have crossed our national red lines by daring to question our collective existence as a nation. This is a step too far.
One nation bound in freedom, peace and unity.
Nigeria, one nation, one people.
This is a public service announcement brought to you by NTA.
If you hear a bomb explosion or gunshots of an active shooter, that might be a terror attack. At such times, always remember 3 action words: run, hide, report. Don't try to run towards the terror scene to save the situation, because there might be a second bomb blast or another attack. Run far away and take cover. Make sure you are safe first. Yes, it is in our nature to sympathize over the hurt, but remember, only trained personnel can help in such situations. When in a secured environment, promptly call relevant authorities and help will come. For anonymous reporting, call 09630-3250-5 or 0813-2222-106. If you see something, say something. Nigeria, unite against terrorism. This message is brought to you by the Federal Ministry of Information and Culture.
Well, thank you for staying with us on Good Morning Nigeria up to this moment. President Muhammadu Buhari presented Nigeria's statement at the 72nd United Nations General Assembly yesterday, where the president called for the sustenance of international collaborative efforts in fighting international terrorism towards attaining peace in the world. Now, joining us to discuss the president's speech is Ambassador Habib Abu, Nigeria's former Consul General, New York, between 2011 and 2015. And he was also the Director of Protocol to the former Vice President. So you're welcome to Good Morning Nigeria.
Thank you so much.
And all right, now joining us via Skype from New York is Femi Adesina, Special Advisor to the President on Media and Publicity. So thank you for joining us all the way from New York.
All right. Mr. Adesina, thank you very much for also staying up late. It should be about 2:30 your time now, or thereabout, in New York. So thank you for staying awake to actually talk to us this morning. Now, let's start with you. You were there when the president, of course, addressed the United Nations General Assembly. How did the world receive his message?
I believe it was very well received. The message was very well received. And if you followed, you will see that there was a point in which there was rapturous applause for the president when he spoke about democracy still being the best option and how Nigeria had fostered democracy in Cote d'Ivoire and in the Gambia. There was good applause in the hall for him. So I believe the speech was really well received.
Okay, what would you say was the outstanding point of the address for what you've observed amongst other world leaders gathered in New York for this United Nations General Assembly, the 72nd edition?
Earlier, the commitment to democracy. The president said, for us in Nigeria, we have found that there is no other alternative to democracy. I think that was a way of putting to rest whether Nigeria was still in a subtle way under any form of military dictatorship hangover. Right on the global platform, the president said it that democracy was the thing. So that, for me, is one high point. Then the second one, when he spoke about the North Korea situation. Like some who spoke before him had said, he brought a concrete proposal to the table. He said, let there be a committee set up of countries from different regions to visit North Korea so that this issue might be sorted out. So it was something practical. He didn't just identify the problem, he also proffered a solution, which I think also resonated quite well with his audience. And of course, you'll find that peace and security also ran through what he said. If the world needs anything now, it needs peace, it needs security. And that ran through the president's speech.
All right, Mr. Additional, thank you very much indeed. We know you are staying late right there in New York, but I have this question for you. Considering the president's address yesterday to the world, how did that change the perception of many countries on Nigeria? Of course, we know that Nigeria had been described as a nation that has had some difficulty in terms of governance over the years, and that has affected our development level at the moment. Now, has this changed the perception of other nations about Nigeria?
I believe is going to affect it. Change, you know, is a gradual process. It may not come in one fell swoop or at the wave of a magic wand. No, Nigeria has had a long history of military dictatorship. President Buhari, whether we like it or not, was one of those that ruled as a military general. Now that same person came back and said he had become a reformed Democrat. A lot of people held that with a pinch of salt. But then for him to go to the global platform and extol democracy and say that Nigeria not only is a democratic nation, but one that is also canvassing and espousing democracy in places like Cote d'Ivoire and the Gambia, where there had been attempts to subvert the democratic process. I think it's a big plus for Nigeria in the Committee of Nations, and no better platform to do it than at the UN General Assembly.
I'll stick with you before we bring in Ambassador Abuja, who is with us in the studio, to take a look at the president's address as well. As earlier revealed, we had issues of repatriation of looted funds as an outlook part of the speech, and also that of terrorism. Yes, terrorism issue were made mention of and clearly outlined. Can you say the same about the issue of the looted funds and how those legal intricacies of getting them back into the country were being received?
You recall that the governing party in Nigeria canvassed for election on three main planks: securing the country, fighting corruption, and reviving the economy. Two of those three planks clearly were defined in that speech: securing the country, and then the corruption issue through repatriation of funds. You may say that, well, he didn't talk too much about the economy, but there are other sideline meetings where issues of economy had come up and will still come up before the General Assembly is over. So you found the president presenting issues that are Nigerian on a global platform. And for me, I think that is quite germane.
Thank you very much indeed. We will return to you before we end this particular aspect of our conversation this morning. And let's come down to Abuja here, where we have Ambassador Habib Abu, who has a wealth of experience in diplomatic matters. Now, sir, what was it for you in that speech? What is the epicenter, or what do you think was so outstanding in the president's address yesterday?
Thank you so much. I think what Femi enumerated actually resonates a lot with me, but I tried to make sense of some of what the president mentioned, and realized that he virtually omitted 3 key items that I felt should have been mentioned. One, the issue of small and medium light weapons. For us in Africa, those are the weapons of mass destruction. That issue was omitted. 2, there was a proposal made by President Yar'Adua in 2007 for the DNA of Nigerian oil to be made so that any stolen Nigerian oil could be easily traced and identified. That issue was also not touched much. He spoke about Paris climate change, climate agreement, but for me, climate change, he should have talked about the effect of climate change on Nigeria and the nexus between climate change and the Boko Haram issue. Because when the Lake Chad region now became desert, the people now have nothing, and that created the situation where Boko Haram found a base, and the people become vulnerable. So that issue, I think, was also basically omitted, even though he talked about Boko Haram and other things.
So these areas you mentioned now, you believe that they are germane, that are supposed to have been presented. What would have been the resultant effect of that? What would be of benefit to Nigeria if it had touched those areas?
You see, these were areas that were touched during the May Security Summit held in Nigeria last year. You know, there was a Security Summit, the second one. The first one was the Paris Security Summit, and the next one was the May 15 Security Summit held last year, which I was part of the organizing committee. It set out to achieve the objective of bringing everybody into the crisis and trying to solve it. But we had a lot of problems in terms of what Nigeria set out to achieve. For instance, we noted that in all the IDP camps, there were more than 6,000 children below the age of 5. In those camps, they have nobody. They are on their own. And there are 27,000 children below the age of 18 in those camps. And Nigeria proposed the idea of a DNA to be able to connect these children with at least extended family, even if their children, even if their parents died. That was missing. So if we are able to put all this together, then you find that Nigeria at the UN with this message will now be much more acceptable.
All right, Ambassador Abu, well, if we felt okay, there were some little minuses done, not pushing for that, but our president was bold in pointing out past and current issues and resolutions of the United Nations that were never carried out to the letter. And diplomatically, what does this portend for us?
You see, world politics and the implementation of UN agreements and resolutions are quite different from what you do in your country. Many factors come into being. He mentioned the Palestinian-Israeli issue. That crisis is not a Palestinian-Israeli issue. It's a world issue because all the crises in Syria and Iraq, they are all connected to that, and that of Yemen. And even the Boko Haram incidents, because the president talked about ISIS now finding a way of coming into the Lake Chad region, and the countries around the region don't have the resources to handle that. So we must, as a nation, package that and sell it to the world, because we absolutely need that.
All right. Let's return to New York again, to Mr. Adesina. We have listened to Ambassador Abu and the issues he raised with respect to small and medium arms deal, which of course is fueling some of the crises we're having in the country. That's number one. And now, what is going on the sidelines of the General Assembly? What are Nigerian diplomats doing to sell the president's address to other nations, at least to buy into what he's trying to push across to the world? Is there any exercise of that nature taking place at the General Assembly?
Well, the ambassador would rather know that more than me. He knows how the United Nations works beyond the general debate. For me, just as a media person working as a media advisor to the president, I know that the speech has been delivered, and we have our own as the Deputy Secretary General of the UN. So I believe that the speech is not just going to end there. It is going to be dissected, and the action points are going to be identified and followed up with. So I believe that the speech is not just ending there. You also know that there are still some sideline meetings where very important issues are taken and looked at holistically. So I believe that further actions will be taken on issues that came up in the president's speech.
All right, still with you. Let's take a look at some of the other areas. President reminded all of Nigeria's contribution and commitment to all the ideals of the United Nations, and expressed a willingness to cooperate with other nations in actually making the world safer. You already touched on that aspect of talking about North Korea and what they need to do, taking on the regions of the world. Now, Nigeria also is making that pressing position for the Security Council to be a permanent rep there. How is this being received, and what are your observations, at least as a media person, as you've said, from the body language around?
We observed that in the past 2 years, this, by the way, is the third address of the president to the UN General Assembly. I think in the first two addresses, he spoke about the need to reform the UN and the need for more seats on the Security Council and all that. He didn't come out specifically in the main speech this year, but there are still sideline meetings where that definitely will come up. For instance, today the president is having a bilateral meeting with the Secretary General of the United Nations. It's not unlikely that such a thing will feature prominently in that kind of high-level meeting.
Thank you. As time warrants it, we may return to you before the end of this segment. But for now, Ambassador Abu, the proposal by President Buhari on how best to tackle the issue of the feud between North Korea and America and the world by extension, based on the fact that he's been testing missiles, or the ones that are banned not to be tested and all of that. Now he's proposing that there should be a meeting. How far would that go to ameliorate the situation in the Korean Peninsula?
Thank you so much. I think that aspect of Mr. President's speech should have been part of what Alpha Konari, the president of the African Union, the chairman of the African Union, it should have been part of his speech. But Nigeria, being a leader, now made that proposal. And the proposal is for the UN Security Council members, a representative of all the regions, to set up a committee to visit Pyongyang. The importance of that is that once they come back and a report is prepared, that report will be submitted to the Security Council, and the Security Council will now be able to take a decision and pass a resolution which must be complied with. So that is the importance of that committee.
But the position of America, for instance, is it different. In fact, the American president shocked the world yesterday because reactions over other international media on what he said that if North Korea attacks its allies or America itself, that it's going to destroy that nation. How would you assess that statement?
You see, as far as I'm concerned, I laugh at some of what President Trump said. I think maybe because he has never had governance experience except for being a businessman. But the American system is system-based. Whether they can pick anybody to be the president, the system will still guide him in what he does. The American president cannot just stand up and say, okay, let's destroy North Korea. But there are ways he can do it, maybe small-scale attacks and what. But absolutely, he cannot organize that on his own. He needs the legislature, and unfortunately, he is losing his base in the Republican Party.
All right.
Yes.
Listen.
I think that will be all. That's okay. We would like to thank Ambassador Abibabu Owen for joining us on the program this morning. We also like to appreciate Mr. Femi Adesina, Special Advisor to the President on Media and Publicity. Thank you for staying up late. I'm sure you could go hit the sack now. Thank you very much. We wish you and the delegation out there in New York a very fruitful time. We hope to speak with you before you leave that part of the world again. You're watching Good Morning Nigeria. Before we commence the second topic, taking a look at Zero Hunger Forum, let's join Saliu Abdullahi now, who has a background report to set the stage for the conversation. We'll be right back.
From insecurity occasioned by the Boko Haram insurgency in the northeast to farmers and herdsmen clashes and the global economic meltdown, Nigeria has had her share of challenges that virtually affected all key sectors, including food supply. The situation was compounded by the recession and high rate of inflation, which led to rising food prices by up to 300% in some cases. Inadequate food has never been more pronounced than now, as the insurgency, which not only led to mass movement of people, but also deprived many farmers from growing crops in the affected areas. The government is not unaware of this, though, as it has not only made agriculture top priority in its diversification policy, but also introduced specific ones to boost food production. Unlike in the past, when various administrations came up with policies and programs to enhance food production, but failed to formulate strategies towards actualizing them, there seems to be a shift as the government of the day continue to give the people reasons to believe this is the time for Nigeria to shift away from paper policies to actual implementation. The Zero Hunger Initiative, which led to the development of homegrown strategy, is one that seeks to boost food production and eliminate all forms of malnutrition, as well as build inclusive and sustainable food systems in Nigeria by the year 2030. Former President Olusegun Obasanjo, who chaired the development of the synthesis report, is spearheading the charge for zero hunger with the support of International Institute for Tropical Agriculture and the African Development Bank. All the 36 states are expected to key into this drive by year 2021. Already, 4 pilot states, Benue, Ebonyi, Ogun, and Sokoto, are on with encouraging results. The Zero Hunger Forum, which comprises Ministries of Agriculture and Health, African Development Bank, Tony Elumelu Foundation, Obasanjo Foundation, Dangote Group, and others, do physically monitor implementation of the Zero Hunger Project in the 4 pilot states. The International Institute of Tropical Agriculture IITA supports states with relevant technologies cutting across varieties of crops. Nigeria Zero Hunger Forum reviews monitors and advises states on best ways to go about agriculture using available resources to achieve zero hunger. As the new journey that is expected to redefine the destiny of hundreds of millions in Nigeria begins. But then, questions such as what is the zero hunger all about? How different is it from similar policies of the past? Who is expected to do what and when will the impact become visible are seeking for answers? And that is what those who know will do shortly on Good Morning Nigeria.
All right, joining us in the studio to discuss Zero Hunger Initiative is Senator Abdullahi Adamu, Chairman, Senate Committee on Agriculture. So thank you for joining us on Good Morning Nigeria today. Senator, you're welcome to the program.
Pleasure being with you. Good morning.
All right, sir. It's also a pleasure to welcome Professor Bola Gade Ayola, President, Farm and Infrastructure Foundation, and member Zero Hunger Forum. It's good to have you join us, Professor.
Thank you very much.
And also from our Ibadan studio is Dr. Kenton Dashiell. I hope I got that correctly. Desk Manager, Nigeria Hunger Forum. Thank you for coming to the program, Mr. Dashiell. Thank you. You know, since you are the secretary of this Zero Hunger, what is that really all about? Over the years, we've had all manner of policies and committees, if you like, focusing on agriculture. Could you just educate us on what this Zero Hunger is all about?
Yeah, the Zero Hunger Forum is a result of a focus on the Sustainable Development Goal number 2, which is called Zero Hunger. And the Zero Hunger Forum then is, as was said in the introductory piece, that was done very well, a group of people that is organized and led by former President Olusegun Obasanjo to encourage, to stimulate, to help the federal government, the state governments, the local governments, the private entrepreneurs, NGOs, and others to work together as a team to achieve zero hunger in Nigeria.
We'll return to you in a short while, but I'd like also Professor Ayola to come in here. What role would you think IITA is going to play in all of this? Because after all said and done, what we are concerned about is how the Zero Hunger could make a difference.
Before we get to the other body supporting, let's find out what has been domesticated with Spilo states, as we know. Or what more do we need to know, Professor Abola, with regards to Zero Hunger?
Thank you very much. The Zero Hunger Forum is a multi-stakeholder forum for specially intervening in the agricultural sector for the purpose of helping, assisting, supporting government at different levels to meet the SDG 2. And that has its several dimensions. The targets of SDG 2 comprise food security, attainment of food security by the year 2030, the attainment of a strong nutritional base for the people of Nigeria by year 2030, the attainment of doubling productivity of agriculture by that same year, and also de-risking the agricultural environment in terms of practicing resilient programs of agriculture. So that is a message from the international community for countries that have committed to this process to embark on policy measures, practical measures for attaining them. So where Zero Hunger Forum comes in is because of the request placed before Chief Obasanjo to stimulate and enthuse the government at federal and state levels towards doing what they are supposed to do in order to meet zero hunger. And what they are supposed to do is in terms of policy measures, supply of requisite infrastructure, and the like. Much more of what we have been doing, but in a packaged approach. And because we are acting at a very high level of political authority in this intervention through President Obasanjo, it is possible to influence the policy process towards meeting the zero hunger targets by year 2030 through the states and federal government.
All right, thank you very much. Senator Adamu has something to do here as a former governor of Nasarawa State and as a farmer too. And a member of this Zero Hunger group. Let's ask you what you understand about that, because we have understood that from the explanations. Now, how workable is this going to be? Because, as I said earlier on, we have seen such well articulated policies, and that ended up in a bad implementation. So, how can this work here now?
Well, flowing from what the earlier interveners to your questions have said, I want to just emphasize, before going specifically to that question, that zero hunger, simpliciter, derives from the international effort to see how best the world can attain, SDG 2. And the driving organization is the World Food Program. And the whole idea of it is, once there is a package as to how we can meet the objectives of the SDG 2, how do we get it to be applicable in every state that is a signatory to the United Nations Charter that is committed to the attainment of SDG. So the Nigerian Forum was established, and as the professor said, we got the former president of the Federal Republic, President Olusegun Obasanjo, to be nominated to head the Nigerian country initiative for zero hunger. And we have tried over time, this started about May last year. And over this period, we have been able to develop a country policy, a country program based on the attainment of SDG 2 in Nigeria. And we have been able to identify 4 states in the country that will kickstart, if you like, call them guinea pigs for this purpose, just to be as simple as we can. We've taken Sokoto,
okay.
We've taken Ebonyi, we've taken Ogun and Benue, and then Borno State. Okay? And the whole idea is, how can we work towards eradication of food insecurity? The long and short of it.
So what are the mechanisms put in place to actualize this through this guinea pig state?
What we can do as a forum is to develop the idea, to develop the program. How can it be done? We don't do it ourselves.
Definitely.
The whole idea is, once you have a country program, the home government, in this case Nigerian government, will key into it and see how best the program that has been articulated, developed for the attainment of SDG 2 can be achieved. The provision of infrastructure to make it possible, the provision, they've been making the law that will enable the driving of this policy possible, is the responsibility of the Nigerian government.
All right, Senator Adamu, gentlemen, that's Professor Agbola and also Dr. Joshua in Ibadan. It's not the first time that we'll be having at least high-powered delegation meeting over food program or agricultural policies generally. If we recall, in 2014, there was the Equatorial Guinea Declaration of a Food or Agricultural Industry to actually make the region or the continent actually come together. They declared that as the Malabo Declaration to trying to measure what agriculture was going to be doing for the region. A short change in one aspect of the region definitely will affect the other one now. This is nothing different again. This is another that is being pushed. Now, how is this resonating in some of the states that you studied? What is the peer review mechanism being used to actually judge some of those things that are being pushed forward in the forum?
Thank you. The essence of Zero Hunger Forum is in terms of encouraging the states. As the distinguished senator said, there is a program, a framework of action which the forum had put in place to guide its support process. It is not a forum for implementation. It's a forum to catalyze the activities of government, federal, state, to encourage, to stimulate, and follow up in terms of monitoring and coordination for the purpose of making sure that all levels of government are not deviating from the framework that has been established globally and also brought down nationally in order to move in the same direction towards zero hunger in year 2030. But that is unique in itself because we have not got such a high level of intervention before that we will be able to sit face to face with governors as chief executives of their state and talk agriculture, talk ending hunger, monitor what they are doing about ending malnutrition, and so on and so forth, and try to advise, it's advisory, changes that are necessary to make adjustments towards moving in that direction. So we see this as a mechanism that can work. When we were in Benue, the agricultural population and policy authorities in Benue sat with the forum over 2 days to showcase what they are doing. And if what they are doing has a disparity from what should be done, then the forum is in a position to draw attention to necessary policy actions that will bridge that gap. That, in a nutshell, is the mechanism being employed, and it's a global affair.
From the question that the person raised, the issue of practical actuality of the international framework that have been put in place. How do we domesticate this international framework for agriculture? When you talk about the food, you talk about planting, you talk about irrigation, you talk about what are those practical the implemented? Because I was going to ask Senator Adamu a question on how are the governors keen into this, because that was what happened during
Senator Adamu is former governor of Nasarawa State,
because the MDGs failed because of what we're talking about now, not following up, not domesticating, not ensuring that this is actually deliberate actualization.
One of the key commitments we've given as members of the Zero Hunger Nigeria is having developed the program, having developed how we think this country can best achieve the objectives of SG2 by the year 2030. We have a mechanism for evaluation. The 4-5 states I mentioned are to kickstart. We should be able to make a determination with the Ministry of Agriculture what is the estimated food demand for the country, the different types of commodities that have been produced in Nigeria, what targets do we have, what's the demand in Nigeria, how do we achieve that, which states or cluster of states can achieve particular targets in particular commodities, okay? And so we will be able to monitor through this advocacy how best those targets can be achieved. And where there is failure, we'll try to see what is the cause of that failure. Is it that there's no enabling law to make it possible? Is it that the infrastructure that is required to deliver is not there? Or is it that the financing, the gearing finances is not there? What are the identifiable problems that is threatening the delivery of those targets? This is one very critical responsibility that we've given unto ourselves. And we have got also somebody far off, like I said, the World Food Program. They are monitoring this. The World Bank is monitoring this. And there are other agencies of the United Nations. There are other voluntary agencies like, what do you call it, foundation, who are partnering, as NGOs to this, to see to the attainment of these objectives. The reason where there was failure earlier on in SDG 1 is the fact that the monitoring was not effective. People that were supposed to ensure the attainment, the evaluation of the progress being made failed in the process. And somehow there was no referee, as it were, if you permit that expression, to say, well, look, foul, do it this way. You're better placed to achieve the goals that are
all right, Senator Adamu, thank you very much. We'll come back to both yourself and Professor Agbolabake in Abuja, but let's go over to Ibadan, where we still have Dr. Kenton Dashel seated. And now you've listened to the perspectives from here in Abuja studio. Now, what role will the IITA and the AFDB be playing, as well as other partners that are looking into this Zero Hunger project? Definitely, there are concerns from your side, and there are considerations to be looked into.
Thank you very much. I'd like to support what Senator Adamu and Professor Ayola were saying about the very positive environment we're in right now. We see great partnerships being formed at the federal government, state government, etc. And when we met in Benue State about 3 months ago, we saw great partnerships being formed. We visited many different agriculture projects, nutrition projects, and when we saw them encountering problems, there was always somebody there. Maybe it was private sector, maybe it was government, maybe it was NGO, maybe it was research, that could solve that problem right there on the spot. So forming these partnerships with various organizations is really going to help us move forward. I've been working in agriculture in Nigeria since 1983, and I can promise you 2017 is a very exciting year. We're seeing agriculture really turn around in Nigeria. And I'd like to give you just a couple examples of how good technologies developed by IITA with our partners here in Nigeria are really going to accelerate the rapid increase in agriculture production, even generating crops that can be exported out of the country and achieve income for the country. I'll give you one example. One of the big problems we have with maize and groundnut in Nigeria is something called aflatoxin, and this makes it impossible for us to export groundnut like we used to here in Nigeria, and it makes maize unhealthy for people to eat. We have a product now that when the farmers put it in their field around flowering time, reduces this bad aflatoxin by 90 to 95%, thus making groundnut very clean and able to export, makes the maize very nutritious and healthy for all Nigerians. I'd just like to give you one more example. We have something called Najumax. And this product, when put on the seeds of soybean before planting, increases the yields by 25 to 30%. And this product is very cheap. And you just have to put a few grams of this on soybean seeds, and it greatly increases the yield. So I would like to bring in the African Development Bank. They are a very, very strong partner here in Nigeria. And we're starting a program by October this year that is going to help deliver all kind of better technologies here in Nigeria to greatly increase the agriculture yields, to increase the income of farmers. And finally, another program the African Development Bank is partnering with the Nigerian government to start a program called Enable Youth. And this program, when it gets started, will be empowering 1,000 graduates who have finished their National Youth Service Corps to get the technical training and the business training so that they can start up their own businesses in agriculture. We're looking at 1,000 youth in every state plus Abuja in Nigeria over 5 years going into this program. Thank you.
All right. Dr. Dashiell, thank you very much indeed. I want to take you a little bit back what you mentioned about the technology coming from ITA. Well, I would like you to be specific on some of those technologies and the approach of such technologies to enhance food production, and also this technology for African agricultural transformation, which is an $800 million ADB project. I would like also to tell us about that. You see, Nigeria is a country where we have a challenge in agricultural infrastructure and again, lack of adequate mechanized farming. Put all of this together and let us know how the Zero Hunger program will go moving forward.
Very good question. For us to achieve zero hunger in Nigeria, where all people have good nutrition and food is accessible to everyone, it involves programs clear across the government, or clear across the country, sorry, from north to south to east to west. So the technologies for African agriculture transformation is going to work on all the diverse crops and animals that are important here in Nigeria. So for example, in the north, major programs on wheat, sorghum, millet, cowpea, groundnuts, where with each of these crops and animals there are very new, improved varieties that give much higher yields, the correct fertilizer practices, the correct pest control measures, so that with all of these crops we can achieve doubling or tripling the yields. And when this is coupled with the right government policies that discourage importation and encourage local production, we can see great gains. Your comment about infrastructure is extremely important, and we realize, and I should say the government realizes, that we can't solve this problem every place, everywhere. And so the government has a program with staple crop processing zones where there will be specific areas that will have excellent infrastructure developed so that private entrepreneurs can set up the processing factories for the different crops and animals. Also the Technologies for African Agriculture Transformation, TAT, will be working on other crops like cassava, rice, and animals like cattle and poultry to increase production of all these things.
Okay, Blessing.
Yes, back to us.
Because he has.
Trying to take in all this for viewer, also other observers. Okay, we've heard this before. How is it going to now make a difference and impact some of the areas? Let's take, for instance, Benue State. Senator Adamu made mention of Benue in the last also Dr. Dashiell. Benue now, at least for sometime last month, the flood issue affected most of part of the states. And I'm sure there are also technologies looking into some of this area. Climate change, no doubt, is going to affect most of the things that agriculture is doing. How ready are we to actually turn the tide in addressing some of those areas? Professor Agbola, take that alongside take that alongside what we need to do expressly with the states that we have selected as pilots.
Thank you very much. I'd like to deepen some of the aspects that Ken had mentioned. His contribution had largely exposed the aspect of doubling agricultural productivity. And that is where IITA has a special capacity to the improvement of yield mechanisms and other measures for increasing yield, increasing production. But there are other key components of this forum we are focusing on. One is that of ending hunger. Some people are already trapped in the hunger house. And unless we help them out, they cannot come out or by themselves. About 13 million Nigerians are hungry, to the extent that they go to bed in that state.
How did we arrive at that data? That's
it's published. We have Nigeria, the World Bank, and so on. Estimates are done frequently. But the point I want to make is that these people that are hungry, we need a special program to take them out of hunger. And that is why the National Social Protection Policy that the federal government is pursuing now is very critical. Unless that enables us to go there and help them in terms of the disparity between rural and urban states of the nation, as exacerbated by the population growth that is always beyond the growth of food production, and so on and so forth. Also, malnutrition is a key dimension. Wherein the national policy on food and nutrition, which is in place, is also very key. Addressing issues like underweight, stunting, and poor maternal nutrition, and so on and so forth, beyond which we can go above hunger signs in order to empower people to be able to perform better. And that is where the Nigerian Zero Hunger Forum seeks to make incremental input. In terms of the uniqueness, one, we work at the state level, not only at federal, and that is very key, because states drive agriculture. State authorities are those on the ground where planting takes place, where rearing of animals takes place, not the federal. So we are putting the state government on the driver's seat for driving. And also, we are implementing the Zero Hunger program within the framework of the right of the people to the food. Because unless we help them to demand that right, therefore engendering more and more production from the farm population, it is not going to work. Therefore, within the context of helping them to demand their right to food, it is also possible to make.
All right, thank you.
Excuse me, just before we lose that point.
All right, go ahead.
You asked specifically the issue of Benue and some states of the Federation that suffered floods in recent times.
Yes, sir.
How does that affect, if I got that question right? I think one thing the Zero Hunger is trying to address on that is, one, floods are natural disasters. We have agencies of government that are supposed to monitor, that are supposed to do studies and advise government and the public, particularly the farming public, as to how vagaries in weather can affect production. Somehow, and I say this with due respect, the meteorological department need to sit up. For the third consecutive year now, they tell us that rain will come late. They tell us the rain will not only come late, but the rains will cease early. This is the third consecutive. We've gotten the complete opposite of this. So people are not quite prepared. It affects the timing for a farmer to go to the farm. If you miss the timing by a week or two, you'll be surprised what effect it can have on you. And that has been affecting our production. Over and above that, we want to authenticate the best we can through independent studies to help government to have a determination as to what is the quantum. Because you cannot plan in vacuum. What is the quantum of food requirement in Nigeria? Various, agricultural produce. What is the quantum? How do you go about achieving that? To get that, you must work on your population. What exactly is your population? What is the demand? What is the staple food in this country? Are we producing enough? If we're not producing enough, where are the obstacles? How can we remove those obstacles? That is what Zero Hunger is trying to help government to do.
All right, so
that's not what we've been doing over the years, period.
Yes, and we've had Green Revolution, Operation Feed the Nation.
I would like to even remind that there is this
when we return,
on one condition that we are ready to
solve the problem.
Now, if you remember, I'm sure, Senator, you remember that
when we return, Senator, we're actually taking you on that. Yes. And again, what should be the role of the private sector, in this connection?
Do that.
So you are still watching Good Morning Nigeria. I know Nigerians are going to react to this. We're expecting some tweets from people who are watching this program. Thank you for staying with us up to this moment. This is Good Morning Nigeria. We're going on a very short break. When we return, more of the conversation.
Another edition of TV Guide magazine is out with revealing accounts of trending stories. With the dwindling oil revenue, he says there is no reason to worry.
We strongly believe that culture is Nigerians' new oil, and we're going to show that by creating wealth, our art and culture will be a statement for all of us.
Our cover story is on Otumba Olusegun Runchewe, Director General, National Council for Arts and Culture. For upcoming TV presenters, Elegant Elizabeth Banu tells you what it takes. A peep into the activities of the Presidential Committee on the Northeast Initiative, a mandate being fulfilled. A trip to the Yankari Games Reserve and Safari in Bauchi State brings you closer to nature. And the Oshun Oshogo Festival, our culture, our pride. Professor Adiku, the Vice Chancellor, University of Abuja, tells us what it means to manage a university, plus our regular features, star profile, media issues, relationships, young minds, entertainment, sports, and lots more. Pick your copy now at the vendors or at every NTA station nationwide. TV Guide, still your indispensable companion.
If you just joined us, the program is Good Morning Nigeria, and the second outlook conversation this morning is taking a look at the Zero Hunger Forum project. And we see our guest seated, Senator Adamu Abdullahi here in the Abuja studio, Professor Bolagade Ayola, also here in the Abuja studio, and Dr. Kenton Dashel in Ibadan studio. Now, as Kieran indicated before the break, there are reactions already. We'd like to run through them, and we get to move on with the conversation. Hassan Labaran says Zero Hunger Initiative is realizable only if Nigeria and Nigerians can give credibility to agriculture.
And from Elijah, the federal government, through Ministry of Agriculture, must increase investments through international cooperation to bolster the productive capacity of agriculture in Nigeria.
From Omo is this tweet. It says, if this... Well, I don't know if Omo is a female, I think it's more like a unisex name. If this must come to reality, Bank of Industry and Bank of Agriculture must ensure that only the real farmers benefit from loans and grants.
From Solo, there is need to increase investment in rural infrastructure, agricultural research and technology to enhance agricultural productive capacity in Nigeria.
Adamu has us to it. The set target is achievable if there is the political will to ensure enabling environment for real farmers.
Now, Jamel says this initiative, I believe he's talking about the Zero Hunger, if truly pursued, it will end hunger, ensure food security, improve nutrition, and promote sustainable agriculture by the year 2030.
And from Matthias, we have the streets is one thing to have a vision, but it takes a deliberate effort to achieve the vision. Else, vision can fail if not pursued.
Now, Bodamosi Adamu, it is achievable if only we can focus more on agriculture, the diversification of the economy, and the evil called unemployment.
Sikiru says we cannot continue with hoes and cutlasses to attain this. We must mechanize the system to move on.
Now, Obola Babs, how does an individual become part and parcel of the Project Zero Hunger initiative in Nigeria at the various state and local government levels?
Clifford Agugwese has this tweet. Zero hunger must not be treated in isolation. Zero destitution and related issues must be part of the picture.
Then Ironzi says the roles of critical stakeholders must be specified and functional specificity. Of course, this is a grammar specificity adhered to.
And from Nima, is this sort of tweet, ending hunger by 2030 is achievable, but it cannot be achieved by wishful thinking, but by serious work by all stakeholders.
And that brings us to the question of what makes Zero Hunger different from other agricultural programs we have in the past. Well, this is, you could say this is an international platform that we're trying to domesticate here. We have had our own naturally domesticated ones that never worked. So
well, I think one thing we have to get straight is this. Anybody on the street in Nigeria, if he's enlightened, a student of current affairs, will tell you that the reason for failure has not been lack of ideas, has not been lack of people implementing what has been planned, programmed. But the fact is the political somersault that policies suffer. One thing we are going through in this country, you have 1,000 governments, you have 1,000 reverses in policies in agriculture. Right? The federal government, to a very large extent, has the resources, has greater level of manpower to drive agriculture. If you take a look at the Constitution, agriculture is, to a very large extent, on the concurrent legislative list. It gives responsibility to both, in fact, the 3 tiers of government, if you permit: federal government, state government, and the local government. But the manpower at the local government level, and the states, the states and local government level, and the financial capacity is very, very limited compared with what you have at the national level. Now, what one would ordinarily hope for is that the federal government should develop a policy that says, this is what we are going to have for the next 4, 5 years, 10 years, whatever. And the state governments and local governments will queue into these programs. Now, with limited resources, limited manpower, and with the somersault that the system suffers, in terms of policy implementation, programs implementation, there's no way you can drive it forward. There's nothing we haven't had. Green revolution, back to land, call it whatever, in agriculture. You start it, 2, 3, 4 years, a new person comes in, the whole thing changes. That is one. But the main problem agriculture suffered is, as a matter of national policy, over a very long time between the First Republic and what we have today, agriculture was put on the back burner completely. We now resorted to trade fairs and that kind of thing, bringing ready-made into the country. If you take a look at our import bill for agricultural produce, we keep talking about it, but nobody did anything about it until now. The call by this government, President Muhammadu Buhari's government, for us to bring agriculture back to the front burner has received very positive responses. You'll be amazed if you go to the fields what percentage increase there has been of commitment of the Nigerian citizenry into agriculture, how they have keyed into government program. You'll be amazed at what is happening in the fields. Like Dr. Dasher was saying a while ago, the production, the increase in production is phenomenal. Unfortunately, The impact is not being felt because, like it happened last year, there was increase. It's not felt. And this year again, there is going to be a greater increase than we saw last year. But the problem has been we seem to play more of our brother's keeper role than addressing our own basic primary responsibility as a nation to feed ourselves. Our borders are open. You'll be surprised last year, people were coming and virtually buying foodstuff, buying crops on the farm. And the people who are supposed to oversee this saw it happen. If you go to any of these major food markets and see foreign vehicles that come into this country from Chad, from Niger, from border with Togo and Benin Republic and what have you, the quantum of food that we lose seem not to be addressed as a national problem. And unless we do that, the effort that we're making to gear up food production, the fruits of it will not be to our benefit as a country. Somewhere we have to put our feet down. Yes, we want to be good neighbors, but our basic primary responsibility as a country is we must take care of our own citizenry in terms of food. And unless you do that, what is happening is a guy comes from Niger Republic or from Chad or from one of these countries I mentioned with their currency, and because of the misfortune of the Naira, they come with little money, buy up what you have cheaply, and go.
Senator Adamu, you're a farmer as well.
Yeah.
You've been at the ends of a state as governor.
Yeah.
Taking charge policy-wise. We just talked about agriculture being on the concurrent list.
Yeah.
Now, you're distinguished Senator of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. Laws, legislation need to back up some of those policies.
Yes.
And it is when we have that consonance to that backing up that we actually have the benefits of what a program or initiative such as Zero Hunger will address. How is legislation going to be playing a key role in this with you as the chairman, Senate Committee on Agriculture?
One, we have all the laws that are required.
So why are they not being heard there too?
In discipline. In discipline.
So who is to enforce that discipline to addressing this?
Well, as a legislator, I'm not a law enforcement agent.
Definitely.
Good. As a legislator, I'm not the executive.
Definitely. But
I have what you call oversight function.
So how's that oversight function?
You do it. You recently. I initiated as a chairman of the Agric Committee, Standing Committee of the Senate. We initiated in collaboration with the House of Representatives. We got all the people, agencies of government that are responsible, custom, particularly, the ministry itself of agriculture, stakeholders, private sector, the post authority people, the guys at the border, immigration, and what have you. We had a meeting. It was like a public hearing, and we pinpointed some of these loopholes, and we took it as legislature to the executive.
Okay.
And we will not have to implement.
Okay, for implementation.
Right. Okay. Sorry, there was a question to before we come to you, Professor. There was a question earlier I asked about the consent, and for Dr. Dashel, who has been around since 1983, you've seen different policies being somersaulted on agriculture. What are your greatest concerns about Zero Hunger Initiative succeeding?
Well, one of the things that we need to have success in Zero Hunger is actually not related to agriculture directly. It is related to health. And that's why actually the Minister of Health was the chairman of one of the subcommittees in the Zero Hunger Initiative. And so the key, the most important thing about nutrition is during the first 1,000 days of life. And that basically means from conception until a child is 2.5 or 3 years old. So we need to greatly improve the nutrition of mothers that are pregnant and then newborn babies up until they're 2 or 3 years old. And what we know is that in many areas of the country, the mothers have difficult time providing the correct food, the diversity of food that contains the right proteins, the right vitamins and minerals. So even when we produce enough food in the right quantities, we need a massive campaign to educate mothers on the proper feeding that children need, because it is in this young stage that the children's bodies and brains develop. And if they don't develop well in those first 1,000 days, they will be not able to live up to their potential when they are adults. So we have to remember that not only agriculture, but it's health and nutrition that become very critical to make sure we can achieve zero hunger in Nigeria.
All right, remaining with you, Dr. Dashel, I want you to take a look at what should be the role of the private sector in all of this, because government alone may not be able to do that. You've mentioned health, nutritional values and all of that, which are the components of zero hunger. And again, food is also part of it, because what Blessing raised actually had to do with making sure that the food is available and that it's a value addition, to sustain the food, because some of them, have a lifespan of 1 month, 2 months to actually go sour. So what should be the role of the private sector in this regard?
Actually, private sector has probably the most important role to play in achieving zero hunger. The government needs to create that environment that allows the private sector to flourish. And let's remember, every farmer is a private sector. They are a private company all by themselves. They are a business that is there to produce food for their family and produce food and crops to sell. So private sector is going to need to provide us with the right tools to produce crops and animals. Those tools are quality seeds, so we need very good seed companies. We need fertilizer companies that are producing the fertilizers here in Nigeria and distributing these to all areas, and the remote and rural areas, so farmers have access to these fertilizers. We need marketing and distribution companies that sell the products that we need, processing industries. And there's been a lot of progress over the many years to develop very good processing industries, especially for crops like maize and soybean and cassava. We import so many things that, and we can produce all of them here. We import massive amount of starch just for various industries in Nigeria, and we can produce that starch from the cassava. We have starch factories doing that now. So the fact is, private industry is the key player in all of this, and especially over the last 3 or 4 years, we've seen the private industry come in a big way here in Nigeria, and if that momentum will continue for a few more years, we're going to see a complete revolution of agriculture here in Nigeria.
Thank you very much, Dr. Dashel. Professor Bolade Gade Ayola, you're trying to make a comment alongside before we went to Ibadan. Take this along. Is there a time frame for the realization for this forum, and when would that be?
Thank you. A number of issues have been thrown up. One that I would like to comment briefly on is the emphasis on the role of the Zero Hunger Forum. The role of Zero Hunger Forum is not necessarily as implementing body.
Yes, you said that earlier.
Yeah, it is a catalyst. It cannot compete with chief executives and policy authorities in the state to do what they are supposed to do. But that forum wants to follow up with them so that they do the right thing at the right time. Where there are gaps, Zero Hunger could lend a hand in filling such gaps. Let me give you an example there of what happened in Benue. Issues of scarcity of fertilizer arose. And once this came on the table during the meeting, right there, Chief Obasanjo picked his telephone and started making calls to those that matter. And there were promises given. The same thing he called the central bank governor about funding areas that needed to be filled. That is one issue. The other issue that was mentioned by the senator is the issue of disasters. He emphasized natural disasters. I want to also create the need to emphasize man-made disasters. There are several trouble spots in the country today that people are simply helpless, and hunger is the consequence. Therefore, government needs to move in terms of coping mechanisms, adjustment programs, and moving food where necessary to these people. He also emphasized the issue of policy instability. That is key. What we saw in Benue, we are also going to other states very soon. What we saw in Benue is instructive. We have Benue and also Ebonyi, because we have also conducted baseline studies in these places. The facts that I imagine include the observation that governments, in terms of policy, when they come in newly, they do not have a tendency to continue with policies on ground that are not elapsed. And when they meet a situation whereby policies had elapsed and they are supposed to move in with their own new one, they take a long time lag before they are able to.
All right, thank you very much, Professor Ayola. As the last point, at least need for you to make as your comments, you raised one particular issue about continuity with policies.
I just wanted
briefly, because we must go now.
The 5 ages of the issue of what role with the private sector.
Sure.
And how are we sure zero hunger will not fail like government policy? I want to address those 2 issues. One, zero hunger is a private-driven outfit. It's an advocacy platform, and it's supposed to drive government. And most of the people involved are what we call international civil servants, And there is an outfit that is constantly monitoring what each country is saying or what it's doing from what it said it will do.
So,
and
where there is in full effect, all right.
Then, with the private sector, this far, we have been fed, as it were, with the production from what you call the peasant farmer, the small-scale holders. They have challenges. But in spite of those challenges, they are meeting up to quite substantial amount of our needs.
And more should
but
be
what
done.
What is there is the private sector can play a very, very, very key role by bringing investment. Because the little farmer has no access to funds.
Is it the investments in the agricultural sector? Yes. So I wish you had time for this, please. So, because we already
the
time is
reactions
asking us to leave the studio for now.
Okay.
But we actually have reactions again from more Nigerians on this very, very important topical issue. And a customer says the NYSC scheme could be deployed to serve this cause. Agri graduates could be employed in their areas of primary assignment.
Comrade Danjuma has just tweeted, transportation is a key area to be discussed in distributing the agricultural products, but our guests are yet to comment on that.
Shikiru Raufu says everybody must go to farm. Government must provide various infrastructure to rural areas to reduce the movement of people.
For Clifford, he has this tweet, regulators of the agricultural sector must up their game. Prices of input and output must be reasonable to help survival.
And then Schreiber said the ITA has the aflatoxin solutions has agroflotin solutions been tested elsewhere, or is Nigeria a guinea pig as in the case of vitamin A fortified cassava?
Davis says this week, we need deadlines and timelines within which to evaluate deliverables in the course of achieving zero hunger by 2030. If something needs to be done to end hunger, then it should be done now, not 2030. I'm very sure that by 2030, it will become 2050. Sad.
Google says one of the guests is already talking about reducing importation and increasing local production. He appears genuine, and we need him.
Law Alpha, as just tweets, Nigerians are full of men and women of ideas and good policy makers, but implementation and sustenance have always remained our bane. I love the view of Dr. Dashel, speaking from Ibadan. I think we must consider what he said.
And says hunger is a major reason some people go into armed robbery and other criminal activities. So the committee, as well as development, and it is here we are going to end the tweets from viewers across the nation. But for now, we need to conclude this edition of the program. And at that point, I'd like to thank Senator Abdullahi Ademu, Chairman Senate Committee on Agriculture. He's also a farmer and he's also adding value to agricultural produce. Thank you, sir, for sharing your time with us this morning.
Pleasure for the opportunity.
And of course, Professor Bolagade Ayola is a president, Farm and Infrastructure Foundation, and member Zero Hunger Forum. It's good to have you join us here.
Thank you.
And finally, our friend from Ibadan Network Center, Dr. Dashel, Desk Manager, Nigeria Hunger Forum, is from IITA. Thank you very much for sharing your wealth of experience with us on Good Morning Nigeria. And next is entertainment.
Talking about not despising the days of little beginning, Google, the global search engine, has sought out Mark Angel and Emanuela for hitting over 1 million subscribers within a short time on YouTube.
What?
I don't understand from there.
From where?
From the beginning.
What don't you understand here? What don't you understand here? This is X. X has cancelled X and X has cancelled X. 1x equals to 2x and 1 is equals to 2. So what don't you understand?
I understand.
Sit down. What? What?
Uncle, I don't understand.
From where don't you understand? From where?
From last time.
At an event recently in Lagos, the duo were honored amid other global ICT personalities. With amazing and short comedy skits, Mark Angel and Emanuela captured the hearts of many across the globe. Mark Angel came into limelight in 2015 with his hilarious skits on YouTube. Since then, they have become a household brand, winning awards across board. Currently, the Mark Angel skits is the most subscribed on YouTube in Nigeria.
Do you know me? Do you know that headmistress is my mother? And I'm going to report to you right now. Do you know me? Do you know my name? Do you know the class I am? Thank God, I'm going home. See. You think your house says, I know your face, I'm going to report you to the headmistress. This is not my real face, so look at my real face here.
Yes, Manuela doing the best thing she knows how to do. Well, let's join the Nigerian Meteorological Agency for the weather outlook for the rest of today.
Part of the country, with the exception of Jos, Lafia, Mambila, Jalingo, Jebu Ode, and Lagos axis, where localized thunderstorms and rains are anticipated. As we move into the afternoon and evening period, we'll expect more weather activities to affect most parts of the north, the central, and the southern cities. For the maximum temperatures across some selected cities, do stand by.
Good morning, Nigeria, for today. Thank you for your company. Join us again tomorrow morning by 7 in the morning. We'll be glad to receive you then. My name is Blessing Abu. Thank you for watching.
And I'm Kieran. It's been a pleasure having you on the show.
Biotechnology are already reaping huge dividends.
The farmers have been interested.
Biotechnology in Focus, coming soon on NTA.
NTAE brings you the best of entertainment.
I thought I was being sarcastic. I went on to do other productions.
Everything music.
Hear what Richmond is saying.
If you look at the platforms
For a particular product.
They call a new school playing. That's in the hot, we go carry the hair go and got the smell.
Somebody's sad, you feel it.
I love you.
Just a little. I love this. Chop, they are already washed.
Age is all a mindset. Delicious.
To a president.
They depended on Jesus.
What else can I do? Get a shower couple and dancers.
Watch these programs and more on NTA Entertainment Channel 105 on Star Times. NTAE, your one-stop entertainment channel.
No sickness in the world that cannot be cured, none, including HIV, is an invention.
This is very, very good and good marketing tech. Entrepreneurship is about passion and finding that to sell that passion.
And we can promote that, we can expose that, we can save this idea and keep it for Africa.
My great inspiration is Walt Disney.
Your business is self-empowerment scheme.
Yes, sir.
I think you want to empower yourself.
No, and others too.
This is what you do for me. Go and think about what I'm saying while I think about what the judges think about you.
Okay, sir. Where?
Is driven into a decoction of archaeos Osimum gratissimum Venonia amagnalina congronema latifolia.
This is the network service of the NTA.
From the very day we are born onto this earth, the aging process begins. Hello and a warm welcome to you as you join us on our program, Wellness and Living. Our focal point today is on aging. But what is critical is how are you aging? Are you aging successfully? Are you aging gracefully? Well, that's the meaty matter. All over the world today, people are increasing the life expectancy. So there's no better time than now for you to come on board the moving train. It's in your best healthy interest to do so. That's why we are here, to work together so that at every given opportunity, you present the best version of yourself. My name is Thelma